that time of year where, in the background, I'm really deep in the organisation and the online Scotch Whisky Awards. It happens at this time of year every year for the last few years now. It put me in mind, it put me in the frame of with everyone talk about how the OSWAs are functioning and how they're structured and the changes that we've put into place, the tweaks that we've put into place for 2025. But then I realised as I was doing that, as I'm speaking to dozens of people all over the world, all involved in different aspects and areas of whiskey, it kind of blew my mind a little bit. And me not being in the mood to dedicate an entire session to the Online Scotch Whisky Awards tonight, there's lots of that to come in the weeks ahead. I thought, let's cut it down and just do a little section on the OSWAs and instead talk about the amazing thing that's enabled the OSWAs and dozens of other things, hundreds of other things beyond it. Let's celebrate one of the most precious things that I've ever come across in my life, and that is the amazing community that has built up around whiskey. I feel a privilege to be a part of it, and I would like to spend tonight, the majority of tonight, celebrating that, celebrating us, celebrating you. I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you all in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the vPub. How are you all doing? It's nice to welcome you again to another Thursday night, to another session where we just hang out and talk about whatever's on our minds, whatever's on the topic, whatever is interesting, whatever is getting the juices flowing in and around the world of whiskey. Of course, we're at that time of year where it's OSWA season's just about to kick off for the majority of you guys. It's going to kick off on the 4th of October. So, we're only about 10 days away from that now, a wee bit less than that maybe now. Time's flying past. And in the background, obviously, the nominations for 2025, I have no idea what they are. I have no idea what they are because they're being voted on in the background right now. Those will be spat out at some point during the early to middle part of next week. And then Ralfy and I will get together on Saturday, the 4th of October and do the reveal. We'll be the messengers once more and tell everybody what's made it through to the nominations for 2025. But obviously through all that effort and all that work and everything that's happening, I'm speaking to literally hundreds of people. It's fascinating, it's fortifying, it's energizing, it's a privilege, it's amazing. And everybody's really excited to be part of it. And I think it's nice that the OSWAs just finish in November and go dark. And nobody hears anything about the OSWAs. Nobody's really involved in it week to week or whatever. And then this time of year, as we're coming into whiskey season, it kicks off again and we spend a good 6 or 8 weeks maybe. This year it's been contracted a little bit, and I think that's a good thing. And we just get excited to hopefully get excited about the Online Scotch Whisky Awards again. I know it's not for everyone. There is a portion of our community out there that are kind of a wee bit ambivalent about the OSWAs. But hopefully there's enough kind of positive stuff that kind of orbit around the OSWAs in order to offer something for everyone. So we're going to talk a wee bit about the Online Scotch Whisky Awards tonight. Yes, we are. We're going to go through and I'll be able to get you up to speed on the tiniest kind of feather touch tweaks that we've made in 2025. We always said that, we'd keep modifying it and things like that to try and get it closer to its goals of what it's trying to achieve. And we've made just the tiniest of tweaks. In fact, I think a lot of people participating won't even notice the changes that we've made. They are so subtle. But I'll share that with you. And then once we've kind of got the OSWA stuff out of the way and everybody's kind of hopefully marked their calendars and their diaries and things for the weeks ahead for the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, we can talk about what's enabled that, what's empowered that, what's been... The OSWAs is just one symptom of what's achievable, one example of what's achievable from just this amazing gathering of fantastic whiskey folk that gather around the vPub, yes, but in hundreds and hundreds of other spaces around the world. So I want to celebrate that tonight. I want to celebrate us. I want to celebrate all of you with your permission. A wee bit self-indulgent, but I think it's okay, because only by recognizing it and celebrating it do we have the chance to preserve it and help it to endure a very, very positive thing. It's not very like me to not have a whiskey when I go live on the vPub, a whiskey in the glass. I'm going to be careful what we're sipping tonight for a couple of reasons. I'm traveling this weekend, and I'm up early tomorrow morning to start that traveling. I've got a few things to do before I leave in the morning, so I've got to be nice and sharp. So we'll be careful. I've only got 5 glasses out in front of me tonight, and I'll pour 5 small pours. But the other reason that I have to be careful about what I'm sipping right now, and there's a live poll in the chat right now, and that's because I'm always mindful of the things that I talk about during the weeks that the Online Scotch Whisky Awards are live. And that's just because, I don't think it's going to actually affect anything. I don't think anybody's going to be affected by the whiskies and things that I'm talking about. But you just don't want it to be a discussion. You don't want it to be part of it. You don't want people to say, oh, he's promoting this and he's doing the next thing. Look, it's going to be unavoidable. Ralfy, every week he reviews whiskies, and a good 2/3 of the community that's involved in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, they're reviewing whiskies as well. I've a way to say to all of them, just don't review anything that might end up in the OSWAs. So I'm being a little bit overly protective, a little bit overly careful, a little bit overly precious, you could argue. So I've put a question in the live chat tonight, and I've simply asked, I usually avoid potential OSWA nominations at this time of year. Do you think that matters? And I've just given people the ability to say, yes, you should avoid them, or to say, no, I don't think it matters much. See how we get on with that over the course of tonight. Anyway, before we get into everything, like I always do, let's do the community thing. I see Rick Johnson's in tonight. Rick, can you tell me about, was it Rick Johnson's name? Yeah, can you tell me about Fault Line, please? And I'll try and pick up some details on it. A bottle, I think it was from you, bottle of Fault Line Bunnahabhain. I'm going to do what we always do and hop into the chat, hop into the people that have joined live tonight. Thank you all so much for joining me. I know you're all just getting comfortable and settling right now with your glasses and things. And if you're picking this up on the replay and I'm not welcoming you in live, I'm not shouting out your name, I'm not interacting with you, listen, use the chapter markers underneath to skip ahead. Hopefully I've had time to do it in the morning before I leave. And yes, thank you for picking this up on the replay. A lot of you apologise for not being here live, but it really, really means a lot that you're getting something out of watching this after the event. Welcome everyone tonight, and welcome everyone on the replay. Cheers, y'all. Let's welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. How are we all doing? I'm picking up orange like I always do, so type Aquaviti or at Aquaviti, and I should be able to get your comments. Gordon Fraser's in. Good to see you, buddy. He's saying the finest of evenings to you, Aquaviti. You're finally and able to see your handsome face once again. You can come more often. If you think this is a handsome face, I'm not sure about your judgment in general, my friend, but it's nice to have you here, and it's nice to have you being complimentary and positive. Thank you, buddy. Tom Frenney saying, evening, Aquaviti. I returned last week from Islay, where at Lucci's I bought the neck pour of your wonderful Ardnahoe bottle. Fantastic stuff. Lucci reached out to me and said, any chance I can get a bottle or two for bar? So we enabled that. You can also try pours of the Ardnahoe at the Bon Accord. The pot still might have picked a bottle up. I'm not sure. I never checked. The Belfry in Edinburgh, the Ensign Yurt in Edinburgh. There's another bar in Speyside Highlands, the Balmoral is pouring it. And like we say, the Balmoral Hotel, Lucci's over in Islay, is also pouring it by the dram as well. So I hope you get a chance to try it. Greg's Whisky Guide is saying, last 4th of October, we'll be busy with family, so I'll have to catch the replay, Aquaviti. Blame Whisky Live Paris next weekend. And who changed the gathering date? Listen, we're clashing as well. It's the London Whisky Show Live as well on the 4th of October. We had actually planned, as you very well know, because we announced it on this vPub a couple of weeks ago, Ralfy and I had announced to do the nomination show earlier, but there was just a clash that came up. It was absolutely unavoidable. Nothing could be done about it. We have to remember, as I always say with these things, we're not saving lives, So we just announced that we'd have to push it out, and it's the 4th of October, and we make it work. Thanks, Greg. I'm sure you'll pick it up on the replay, buddy. Kilco O'Brien is in saying, hello, Aquaviti. Good to see you, my friend. Rick Johnson is saying, good afternoon from San Francisco, around wonderful Barfly Fens. 35 more sleeps. He's counting down the days until the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend. Good for you. Love the energy, Rick, and I love that you're making that crazy trip from the West Coast to the US to make it again. Much closer to home, Gav's Drams in it as well from Edinburgh. He's saying, hi, Roy, made my friends through whiskey. Me too, Gav. I want to talk a wee bit about that, actually, because I think as we become a wee bit older in life, it doesn't make a lot of sense that new friendships can come so easily. But I am spoiled by friendships through whiskey, and I'm super, super grateful for it. I really am. Jimmy Legacy and OSWAs are of no import to me. Sorry, Aquavite, still love you though. Well, that's very nice of you to say so. Thank you for your affection, Jimmy. But I hope that you find something of value in the OSWAs. Maybe you're just one of these kind of the polite way to refer to it would be a channel elder, somebody that's been around for long enough. But hopefully, some of your wisdom can help the people who are eagerly tuning in to learn stuff from the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. And Jimmy, I hope that you can get involved from a voting perspective to add some of that wisdom too, if you like. It's always optional. Alistair Gray is saying, good evening, Aquavite and the magnificent Barflies. Good to see you, buddy. And Greg is saying, I also prefer the OSWAs to occur later. There's a lot of whiskies are to be discovered in September, October, Aquavite, so it happens too soon each year, unfortunately. Maybe it'll be better in December, no chance. You want me to make my December even busier? You know, we just go with it. Anything that we're missing that comes out in December, it rolls into OSWAs 2026, I suppose. Danny Hebington is saying, good evening, Roy. Good evening, Barflies Aquavite. By the way, that Ardaho is a belter. Thank you, Danny. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. So many people are. I might have a wee bottle. I might go out on a high note tonight, and I might pour a wee glass of my Ardaho to finish tonight, depending on how we're going. Timothy H is saying, Aquavite, I round Barflies. Oops. I've lost my chat on that panel. I don't know why. Let's bring it back up. Just cooking up a Friday fry-up for my brekkie down here in Melbourne, Australia, while catching the vPub. Thanks so much for tuning in so early in the morning, Timothy. It's nice to have you. Arnie Doodle, the drama, is saying, good evening, you amazing people. The theme is apt tonight. A horrible week. It's coming to a close, and I'm more than relieved to sit here with you now. You're such a well of happiness. You're part of that happiness too, Arnie, and it's nice to have you in here, buddy. There's another Arnie right underneath you, Arnie Tiger. Two Arnies right next to each other. He's saying, Aquavite, the whiskey community is really what surprised me online and when at a bar. That's right. We're not just talking about, you know, the community and the vPub. As wonderful and amazing as all of you guys really are, super positive, super welcoming, and ridiculously polite for an online community. We need to protect that. But it's quite easy to protect it in the whiskey context, because anywhere you go and when you're in whiskey, whether it's visiting a distillery, at festivals, in a bar, wherever you find yourself, it's easy to strike up a conversation and have a happy time seeing other humans as humans. It's quite disarming and enjoyable. Kerben in the Netherlands is saying, good evening, Aquavite, and everybody, good to see you, big guy. George L in Arizona is saying a big hello from the boys in Arizona. Fantastic. That's obviously Tom is maybe there with you. I don't know. Drew from Arizona would be maybe there with you. It's nice to have the Arizona contingent. And just as the chat jumps all the way to the bottom, Mirko from Germany saying, evening, Roy, safe travels this weekend. Thank you, buddy. And Rob Smith is saying, hello, all you wonderful barflies. Good to see you, and Rob. How are you keeping, my friend? Mirko, thank you very much for pointing out that I had not shared the Barfly invite to the Glasgow. They're putting on a specific tour, an extra tour, on the morning of 7th of November just for Barflies. Glasgow Distillery, and they're the head sponsor. They've got a really, really busy weekend ahead of them that weekend. They're the head sponsor for Glasgow Whisky Festival, obviously, but they're looking after up to 30 barflies. There's currently a link inside Patreon right now. If it doesn't get snapped up, I'll share that link publicly with everyone as well. So if you're coming into Glasgow early on the Friday, it's 11 a.m. on Friday morning, the 7th of November. Whiskey Liberation Front, that's my pal Lee J from down in Wiltshire. He's saying, good evening, Roy, and you wonderful barflies. Lucky enough to be doing both London and Glasgow. Looking forward to both. Well, if you're in, Lee J, right? You've just got to do it. Well done for you, big guy. Make sure you look after yourself. You know the drill by now. I'm looking forward to welcoming you back here in Glasgow, Doligi. Billy Bennett is saying, good evening, everybody. Just checking in for a moment before bedtime. I'll catch the rest up on replay tomorrow. That's right, Billy. I think if I remember well, you're out in Asia somewhere. I can't remember. I think I just worked out last week where you were. But it's difficult for this old brain these days. Black Fen is here. Good to see you, buddy. How are you? He's saying the easiest way to avoid mentioning the OSWA nominations during the voting period would be to announce the nominations just before your summer break. And hold the results ceremony in September. So you want me to work over my summer break now, Conrad, in order to run the Online Scotch Whisky Awards? I think, like Greg in France, thank you for your suggestions and your ideas, but I think that's a big fat no. It's too much work involved. Jeff Whisky saying, good evening, Aquavita, and you wonderful whisky folk. Jeff and a number of collaborators got together last year in 2024 to launch the English Whisky Awards. And I think, despite the scope of that, the English Whisky Awards potentially being a wee bit smaller in terms of categories and things, and they worked out just, it's a lot of effort. Alan Smith is saying, Greg's Whisky Guide is. Hope you have a great time. Good to see Alan, how you keep, my friend. And Seb K over there in Portugal is saying, oi, Roy, that Ardna finally reached Lisbon and got the thumbs up from the gang here. Absolutely brilliant. I'm glad that you're enjoying it too. It'd be nice to hear back from David and Bruno and the gang. Highland Hamish is saying, greetings from Inverness, mate. Many thank yous to the barflies who have watched and subscribed to my YouTube on Golf and Whiskey, which launched yesterday. I love you all. So Highland Hamish has got this kind of, he's doing tastings, he's doing tourism, he's hosting, and he's looking after people, and that's his business now, that's his job, that's his new venture and his career. I didn't know that you'd launched a YouTube channel alongside it, Hamish. Norrin Rad is saying, good evening, Roy, and all you barflies. Hope you have something great in your glass. I do know, Norrin, and I think I'm going to just I'll kick off with that. Everyone knows, look at the colour of this whiskey. I hope you can see it. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's like a really, really deep, kind of polished copper. It's a gorgeous colour. It's a gorgeous nose on it as well. I'm a bit of a sucker for, I think everyone knows that I love bourbon and refill. I specifically like refill bourbon, and I like it left for a long time and all that. But that's not the only thing I like. It just kind of, it's probably my most favourite thing in it, but it has been for a number of years now. I was doing some research because it's 8 years of the vPub, and I was going back looking at some old vPub, more things about the 8 years of the vPub to follow in the future. And I caught myself as I was picking up a comment, and just obviously the video popped up, and wherever I'd left it, it popped up at that point. And I caught myself talking about how much I loved refill bourbon. And this video was out in 2019 or something like that. So I realized I've been in a rut for maybe 6 years or so. And I wonder if I'll ever come out of that, or if it's just that's where I'm going to stick now, that's always going to be my favorite style. And if it is, I'm okay with that, because I have got lots and lots of things that I really enjoy, mood dependent. You've heard me in Recycled Reviews. You've certainly heard me in past vPubs talking about how much I love the wood that this is from. This is from a Madeira cask. Now, Madeira for me is this wonderfully kind of oak spice, wood forward, kind of cedarwood, sandalwood, lots of that type of stuff in there as well. Warm kind of chocolatey notes. There's a dryness to it as well. But the big thing for me is the complexity that Madeira can bring, because it often, for me, brings a herbaceous note, like a kind of sage and tarragon type green note at times. And I like the switch up. And I like how different Madeira is from other fortified fruit-based drinks, let's say, when it comes to maturing whiskey. I've always seemed to enjoy a Madeira maturation or a Madeira finish. This is Madeira, and it's gorgeous. Everything I've just talked about is on the nose, but there's this really quite potent juiciness behind it as well. And there is even, it's almost like it's mouth-watering because it's juicy, that type of thing, but there's this crispness, a dryness. You can nose, it's not on the palate yet, but just from the nose, you can tell there's going to be a nice, dry, crisp edge to this. Anyway, welcome everyone, and cheers to you all. There's the chat going again. Just let me get that back up. Cheers to you all. Computer's starting to show its age a little bit, I think. I bought this machine in 2019 as well. Could do with an upgrade. Fantastic. It's all about the finish with this. It's all about the development through to the finish. There's a word I've been talking about for a long time, moreish. Tends to be with dry whiskies. But you've got this lovely big juicy hit up front. The development is that kind of oak spice and wood and cinnamon, specifically kind of dried cinnamon, cinnamon sticks, cinnamon powder, cinnamon nutmeg, those types of cooking spices. Lots of kind of woody, kind of, you can imagine kind of sandalwood and cedarwood and kind of really quite aromatic woods. But in the finish, you've got this crisp, drying green side that comes in. And it really is, it's like dried green herbs. And I absolutely adore it. Let me tell you what this is in the spirit of community, in the spirit of collaboration, and so many things that we're going to touch upon tonight. You know that I've been able to collaborate in order to release bottles. This is my pal down south. This is one of Vin's releases. This is No Nonsense Whiskies. Firkin Linkwood. I have to be careful. The Firkin Whisky Company, is actually a project of Mike Collings. Somebody might know that name. And during the Diageo vPub a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned Mike a couple of times, but he was involved in a lot of things in the DCL days, a lot of product development and stuff. His fingerprints are on a lot of things that exist today. But I believe he's still involved in this, the Firkin Whisky Company. I wonder what the subtitles in YouTube are doing when I say the Firkin Whisky Co. 48.9% ABV. I'm not sure, it just says cask type Madeira. I don't know if it's full maturation Madeira, but certainly there is such a huge amount of Madeira impact from this that I think it's close. Linkwood can be quite a light spirit for me. I think it works particularly well with Madeira. I think the Linkwood would maybe almost exaggerate that green element that I've been talking about. Not sure, but this is a cracker. It's a 2011 vintage, and I think it was bottled in 2023, so it's a 10 or 11, July 2023, so it's a 10 or 11-year-old, a 12-year-old potentially product. But I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. This is the second bottle I've purchased for reasons that I won't share with anyone. But yeah, it was just opened in the middle of the start of this week, and I'm down over the shoulder already. This is my pour of the day, and it's a good one to drink with you tonight because it's on theme, and we have to avoid all those OSWA topics, don't we? Anyway. Firkin love it, says Gordon Burniston. Getting me to say it more often. Jimmy Leg is saying you're not in a rut. You've probably been drinking proper cloudy ales for a while too. Not a rut, right? Yeah, I still have an occasional crisp, clean lager, right? But it's not my preferred beer. You're absolutely right, Jimmy. Jesper Bach, potentially, Jesper. He's sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, my friend. Thank you for all you do for our whiskey community. I've been watching Ralfy on and off for years, and last year's OSWAs was a revelation, and I've watched the vPub religiously since then. Jesper, you've watched religiously for the last year. You've signed up as a barfly as well, my friend. Thank you very, very much for your kind words and your support. Greg's Whiskey Guide is saying Madeira cask finishes and SMT full maturation has become my favourite finish over the years, and I just got a nice masterclass about the wine at a show, and I tasted the AD Madeira 25. Absolutely. So we've got two different Ardnamurchan Madeiras. The newest one is peated, and I think it works a treat with their spirit as well. Mirko is saying blind Aquavite blind challenge. The blind challenge is not fully resolved yet. I need everyone, all my patrons, just to kind of hold in limbo for a little while. And I know that you're getting frustrated because a lot of you are making travel plans to come to Glasgow for the festival weekend. But I'm having a little bit of a hitch with the venue. I need to get past that, and if we move past that, it'll be very, very quick into action. Alan Smith is saying, should you not be having a European whiskey versus an American whiskey pub? Oh. Well, there's going to be some American whiskey poured tonight on theme, Alan. But it's an interesting concept. It is. I know what would win though, right? Annabelle Plauta is in. Plauta, I don't know, Annabelle, if I'm pronouncing your name very well. It's nice to have you in. It's nice to welcome you. And she's saying my favourite cast type. And sad to see Springbank release a society bottling that I can't get my hands on. So she's talking about Madeira as well. So there's a few of us, and I've always been aware that there's a lot of us kind of got a soft spot for Madeira wood whiskey. Even when the Madeira is really pronounced, even when the wood is super active, I still find myself enjoying it as a spirit, as a drink. My pal Jason is in here as well. Jason, Whiskey-wise, good to see you, buddy. Saying good evening, Aquavita, and good evening all. Always nice to welcome you. I hope you're keeping well, my friend. I won't see you down in London this year. Obviously, I'm busy with the OSWAs, buddy, again. I need to work it out 1 year so that doesn't clash. Arnie Doodle Ram is saying, I'm just sitting with my new garden, which is fully overgrown. The stars are out tonight, and the first bottle of whiskey poured in a new house is a certain Arnaho. Best malt moment in ages. Good for you, big guy. Good for you. I know it's a stressful time, but happy housewarming to you, buddy. Andy Grant is saying Aquavite. Kilchoman Madeira from around 2015 is still one of my favourite drams. Wish more distilleries would do more younger full-term maturation. And I think that's something we've got to be mindful of. I mean, there's going to be a lot of Madeira finishing and things out there, but you know, when we pick up a bottle and we look at it and we see that Madeira, it'd be nice to know if it was nice and clear. Is this full maturation or is it a finish? It's not going to stop us buying it because it's so much more to do with how active the cask was and how well it's been handled and treated and things. But I think generally people look at a cask on a bottle and there's almost it's not a mistake. It's just the language we say, oh, this is a Madeira finish. Often that word finish is completely wrong. Often when it comes to sherry, when it's wine, when it's Madeira, whatever it may be, it's full maturation. It's not been transferred into another cask. It could be that it is full maturation. Klaus is saying, Aquavita, in the last year or so, I've really developed away from my sherry. Madeira is okay, but those port finishes that nobody likes are for me. That's kind of strange, right? That you've coming into the port. And I get it. But Falscraft, it's so much to do with mood, isn't it? So much to do with mood. Okay, everyone. I think I did some banners for tonight to try and keep me on track a little bit. So I'm going to kick things off. I'm going to start this talking about the Online Scotch Whisky Awards this year. Just try and keep it as compact as I can. There's a lot happens in the OSWAs. Just to kind of get you up to speed with what's happening. I hope that those of you that are interested, so everyone except for Jimmy Lang potentially, can put it into their diary and hopefully join Ralfy and I on the 4th of October for the nominations, which for me is the big show. That's the big deal. The nominations is just far more fascinating to me than the winners is. I still enjoy the winners, and of course we've got to celebrate. There has to be a winner and things, but I'm always fascinated by the nominations. The nominations are on the 4th of October, so as I say, a week on Saturday. And then 1st of November, 4 weeks after that, more or less, we'll announce the winners of the 2025 OSWAs on the 1st of November. We have made some wee tweaks this year. So for anybody that's new to the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, either as a participant, as a contributor, or just watching tonight and just trying to get their head around it, the OSWAs is 100% independent. It's 100% self-funded by myself and Ralfy. It doesn't cost a lot to do. You know, there's a website involved, and there's Google, what is it called? Workspace or Google Suite that used to be called in the background. That's the kind of engine for it all. And it's our own time, obviously, the time that we plow into it. That's the only actual costs at the minute. So we keep it like that because we want it to be integrity forward. We want it to be independent. We don't want ads. We don't want sponsorships. We don't want gifts, free samples, tasters, affiliate links. We don't want anything. We want it uncluttered, and we want it to represent us as contributors, as commentators, as online commentators, that in order for us to represent our communities, our opinions on whiskey. Now, because we're going out to the community and it ends up being thousands of people voting, it ends up being a little bit of a popularity contest, doesn't it? And it ends up being that the votes tend to go for what is the most available, the most distributed around the globe, the most widely recognized, the most ubiquitous. And it's kind of tough to avoid that because of the structure of it. But there are wee things that we can do that might give things that are slightly under the radar a little helping hand. And it's not a deliberate kind of advantage or boost or whatever. I'm talking about the way that it's structured. For the first time last year, we went out to the community as stage one. Before anything was cranked up or started, we went out to the community to ask for their suggestions. We did that again this year. It worked very well last year, but the way it was structured last year seemed to make it even more of a kind of popularity thing up front. So we realized if we could harness the community's suggestions as inspiration, but not just kind of take the top 10 or the top 20 that they suggest in any given category, but share everything that they're giving us and share that with the contributors, the community can then inspire the selections. And then we encourage the people who are involved in curating the nominations. So that's this year, it's 21 core contributors involved in curating. That means suggesting the nominations. And they all get to nominate up to 2 each for each category. So you can have a lot of suggestions in each category. And all those suggestions go out to all the other contributors involved in order to refine those down to the top 6. That's what's happening in the background right now. This year, we've increased the number of contributors dramatically, and I'm going to talk about that in a wee second. So what we've done up front is we've harnessed the community for inspiration, but we also asked the community to give us inspiration for who should be involved. It's impossible for me to keep up with all the YouTube channels, all the blog sites, all the really proactive social media channels that do reviews and guidance and whiskey information. It's impossible for me to keep up with the writers and the podcasters and the on-trade spaces that want to get involved, and just everybody else. It's impossible. So we asked people to volunteer themselves. Even then, that's really hard to keep on top of. So this year we sat down with the community and asked them for their nominations for who should be involved. And my goodness, it was fascinating. There's channels all over the place on YouTube I'd never heard of. There are podcasts, there are social channels, there are people out there doing amazing things in whiskey, and I'd never even heard of some of them. So thank you for that. What that means is that despite attrition since the OSWAs started in 2021, we've seen a decay from those original contributors to the point that between 20 and 30 of the original contributors are now in a state of hiatus, or they've disappeared. They're not doing what they used to do anymore. They've just disappeared. That's a lot of attrition. But then you realize that it's natural. It's just the natural churn of things. So if we take all of those out of the contributor list, they're not involved anymore. So we need to recharge that contributor list. So we were sitting about 80 last year. We dropped down to the 50s. We're in the 50 something. But now we've charged that back up. I've been really, really active in the last couple of weeks, inviting a lot of new contributors on board, explaining the OSWAs to them, letting them know what it's about. And we are now sitting, as I speak to you today, at well over 100 contributors. I think the last count, I don't have the spreadsheets or anything open right now. I think the last count was 109, with another dozen or so invitations still waiting to be acted upon. So there's a lot of communication happening, a lot of stuff happening in the background. And what that really does is it just expands the whole vision of the OSWAs and makes it a truly globally connected thing. It always has been from the get-go, but now we're opening up to as many people as we possibly can. We're offering them, this is fully integrity forward. It's as honest as you can possibly get. What questions do you have? And it's really, really nice to see the uptake and see so many people just saying, yeah, I'm into this. I'm game for this. Let's go. Fantastic. The 9 categories are the same this year. There's been no change since the original year we were out. We had 8 categories. There's been 9 in every category since, every year since. No change there. But what I'm hoping that we can see is that more of that consistency year to year to year. But I'm hoping that everybody, all these new people involved, can get on board to say, this is interesting. The OSWAs should not be, as Ralfy and I discussed a few weeks back, it should not be there to measure what's ubiquitous, what everybody knows about, what's out there. It doesn't measure what sells best or what's popular. It should measure what's good. And sometimes the good stuff is a little bit under the radar. It's a little bit smaller scale, smaller outturn, but it still deserves to be celebrated because of the mission, the goal, the way it's been put together, the quality of it. It's just, I'd love to see the OSWAs get to that point at some point in the future. Andy Hells is signed up to be a barfly. Now, you might know Andy's, but he's usually signed in under Hellswood, Helen's. He's signed up himself. So there's now 2 accounts in the barfly accounts in the Widdowson household. So Andy, thank you for stepping up. And I suppose that means that I know to refer to you as Andy now, whereas if you're logged in as Helen, I can be calling you Helen all night. Thank you, buddy. Thanks for your support. And Shane Brogan is also celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 34 months. Saying I'll catch in the replay, but I'm excited for the OSWAs. Shane, that's a pink barfly you've got there as well. Thank you for your support over the last almost 3 years, buddy. Cheers, Shane, and cheers, Andy. So these are significant things that we're able to achieve, reaching all of these people, connecting all of these people, and bringing all of these people together. One small change that's happened is that if you are the Scotch 4 Dummies in Indiana, for example, you're one channel. And in the past, in the OSWAs, you've had 1 vote. So there's 4 guys with 4 completely different preferences, different opinions, different choices, all kind of trying to come together to kind of homogenize their choices into 1 pick. So they end up delegating it to 1, and it's only 1 person that gets to participate in the OSWAs. It's not all 4 of them, and that's not fair. So we've changed that. That's been opened up now. So Scott and Bart, the Scotch Test Dummies, they can both have an individual vote. Anybody, a dual host podcast, it's 2 hosts get the invite. If it's a couple, if it's, me, my wife, and Whisky, if it's on the barrel whiskey reviews, or on the barrel whiskey, I think it's called, that's a couple, it's husband and wife. They shouldn't have to have the same opinion, so they can have a choice each. Dramface shouldn't be just one opinion of the whole website. Dramface is built on a group of 30 individual writers, and about 8 or 10 of them are participating directly in the OSWAs as individuals in 2025. I think I'm right. It might be 7 or 8. That makes sense, doesn't it? That just makes sense that everybody gets their own opinion and they can vote as an individual rather than as part of a kind of bigger thing. It was clumsy, and it took us a while to realize that was a clumsy thing. But we've fixed it now, and that means that it's easy for us to involve them in the refinement round, and everybody gets a chance to vote. I think I've covered all of the changes for the Online Scotch Whisky Awards so far. I hope that we see some significant changes, some variety, some excitement in the nomination show. But the truth is, it's just going to be what it is. Ralfy and I remain the messengers. We'll stand up and we'll do our level best to bring it to you and just share what the nominations are, and then in a month later tell you what the winners are. But it's in your hands. All the contributors are deciding what the nominations are going to be. And whatever they are, it's what they voted for. Ralfy and I, we don't have a say in this. We have the same single vote as anyone else. When it comes to the winners, it's the exact same. But instead of it being 120 votes or 109 votes or whatever it's going to be amongst the contributors, it goes out to the public. So last year it was 4,444 votes. Thousands of votes. And we just have to announce whatever you decide what is the winner. And that's how it works. I'm looking forward to it. Ralfy is quite an optimist. He's confident that the OSWAs will continue to become more and more relevant. I'm a little bit more of I'm not a pessimist, but I'm a pragmatist maybe. I can see that whiskey has changed since the OSWAs started in 2021. When the OSWAs kicked off, whiskey was at the peak of its kind of overheated hype, if you like. We were still very much in that kind of maybe the shoulder of COVID, you could suggest. We're trying to figure out a way out of the COVID year. And there was a lot of people in whiskey that hadn't been into whiskey previously. And some people were there for the right reasons, because they loved the flavor, because they loved the appreciation, they loved the tradition, the history, the variety, all of these things. But a lot of people were into whiskey because it was just an exciting space to be. And then a smaller amount of people were into whiskey because they could profit potentially from it. So we had a lot of, let's say, concentric circles of interest in whiskey that previously we hadn't had around the core of whiskey. That's changed now. There's not really, it's not easy to make money out of whiskey now, certainly not from buying and selling and flipping. It's gone a little bit. It's changed. Also, people are not at home as much as they were in 2021 and 2022. They're back out there in the workforce, back in office spaces, back in buildings, back on site, back on wherever they may be. So we just feel like there's less of that type whiskey consumption going on. So I would be happy just to reach something about the same number again. But Ralfy thinks that there's a good chance that we'll continue to grow year on year. But then we both kind of stop for a minute and remind each other, quality is better than quantity, right? Sometimes less is more, actually. And we don't mind. Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. It's just how it comes. Clutch is saying, what? My wife and I always have the exact same opinion. Of course you do. Doodle Drama is saying, is that Wally voting in the OSWAs too? I don't think Wally Macaulay is one of the participants in the OSWAs, Arnie. Falsgraph is saying, you are right that whiskey's hype is over, but the more relevant gets the opinion of us enthusiasts, even if the OSWAs don't grow so quickly. And yes, I watched the latest Ralfy video. Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't watch the latest Ralfy video, so you're ahead of me. Ralfy's probably been talking about the OSWAs, as he always does, every year. Fantastic. But I probably need to, maybe for my airport wait tomorrow, I'll catch up on that video. Tomorrow I'm heading over to Scandinavia. I've been to Sweden in my life before. I've never been to Norway. I'm flying into Oslo tomorrow for the first time ever for a wee barfly gathering in Oslo tomorrow night, and then for a wee secret mission that goes beyond from there. There'll be more about that to follow in the months and the years ahead, I hope. But it's a barfly-focused mission. Let's say that's what it is. Nice of you to get the spirit of it, Falsgraph. Thank you for being on board with it all. And he's saying, Nye did not talk about the OSWAs specifically. Okay, but the theme of influence was there. Okay, thanks, Carlos. Thank you very much. Okay. Here's how you can help with the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. If you're in a space, a relevant space, a whiskey club, a bar, a whiskey bar, maybe a workspace where you're involved in whiskey or whatever it is, or it doesn't matter, somewhere where there's whiskey folk interested, invested in whiskey, who enjoy whiskey, the OSWAs are still being discovered. Not everyone knows about it. I find myself describing it to people regularly, all the time. Offer it to them. The website's been updated, oswa.co.uk, oswa.co.uk. They can go on there. It's fairly succinct. They can spend less than 5 minutes on the OSWA website and understand exactly what it's about. In the weeks ahead, we're going to strip out the contributor page and redo it, rebuild it from the ground up to represent the contributors that are actually involved today and link you back to all of their outputs wherever that exists and wherever that may be. Please consider sharing the initiative, because you know what? The OSWAs is probably the single biggest thing that I much that has been built out of our communities. It's not been built out of the Aquavitae community. It's not even been built out of the Ralfy community. These have contributed hugely to it, of course. The OSWAs have been built out of collaboration piled on top of collaboration. You've got all of these channels coming together on YouTube. You've got all of these web spaces coming together, podcasts, social media feeds, on trade, writers, authors, all of these people getting involved and saying, this is a good initiative and I trust it. I'm going to get behind this. I'm going to put my name behind it. I'm going to participate in it. That's powerful, potent community collaboration right there. But then all of you get involved and pile on top of that as well. It is the most magnificent manifestation of the things that we can achieve when we get together as a community, when we put our minds together for a positive end, and when we focus on the net result of that action being a positive outcome for Whisky today, for Whisky's legacy, for Whisky's future, for Whisky going forward. That's the idea. We hope that by celebrating what we feel is the best in Whisky and celebrating concepts and whiskies that we love, the entire Whisky space can look at it and say, okay, here's a nice metric. Here's a lot of really valuable feedback for us to use to develop products and strategies for things going forward. OSWA talk over. I can only insult Ben for so long. OSWA talk is almost over, big guy. I would say, yeah, it's over. Which Ben are you insulting? There are certain Bens that I'm very protective over that I would prefer you not to insult, Jimmy Legg. One Glassman Warner is here. Hi, Roy, excited for the OSWA season. Cheers to you all. Warner, I've sent you a message on Instagram to try and get you involved because you qualify this year. I believe you've been putting your product out there on YouTube for longer than a year. Are you still doing that? Are you still active? Maybe you could send me a wee message and you could be contributor number 110. How do you feel about that? You were nominated by your community. Somebody's put your name forward, Warner. Somebody wants you to be involved. It'd be nice if you're interested. Ian Bruce is saying it's a bit of an unknown in Australia. However, the team at the Whisky List would be a great addition as they have a great community. Well, that poll is closed now, but you can go to the bottom of the contributor page on the OSWA's website, and there's a form there that you can use to nominate yourself if you are the Whisky List. Or Ian, you could go on and fill out that form and nominate on behalf of the Whisky List and nominate them. Justin Wan is saying, I'm still trying to convince my fellow Hong Kong whiskey drinkers to participate in the OSWAs. They remain skeptical, but I will keep banging the drums. I don't know what it's going to take. People are naturally skeptical. People think that awards ceremonies are pay to play, or they're a scam, or they're rigged, or the outcome's going to be inevitable and all of that stuff. I'm not going to lift the bonnet and show everybody exactly all the results and everything, how the OSWAs work behind the scenes, because I don't want it ever to be rigged or played with, or I want it to remain robust and strong. But if there are people with legitimate concerns in a legitimate position, I'll hop on a video call with them and I'll show them everything that they want to see. And I will absolutely prove to them that the integrity of the OSWAs is unshakable. It is as legitimate as it can be. Jimmy's saying there is only one Ben that deserves a proper vitriol. And Ben, Whiskey with Molly, chimes in immediately saying, you tell him, Roy, it's Whiskey with Molly, Ben. He deserves no vitriol that I'm aware of whatsoever. Justin, you keep convincing your pals. Yes, about the integrity of the OSWAs, buddy. Okay, I'm going to go on to almost on topic here. I'm going to open a bottle for you tonight. This is a Glen Ord. It's really difficult to read. Distilled in 2010 at Glen Ord Distillery. I think from the Northern Highlands it says, but the reason is just it's a Ralfy label that we've got here. And he signed this bottle for me. I picked this up, I think, in 2023. This is a 2023 bottling from the looks of it, celebrating 1,000 whiskey reviews, 2009 to 2023. It's amazing. We have to remember that Ralfy's 1,000 whiskey reviews, that's one man's output. That's one person's effort. It's amazing. It's just an amazing thing how that can come to exist. It takes a very, very specific character and a very, very specific position, I think, in order to achieve such a thing. And we're very, very grateful for it. How many YouTube channels do you think exist that were inspired by the existence of Ralfy.com? How many people do you think love whiskey or are into Scotland and Scottishness and a very specific way of enjoying whiskey because of Ralfy? I'm one of them. Before I wasn't close to YouTube whatsoever, I was consuming Ralfy content. I was a patron of Ralfy before I had a Patreon account of my own. I've peeled off the security sticker, so it says void all over it now. I got a clean glass, and I'll celebrate everything that Ralfy and his community has achieved since he started in 2009. Because I'm not sure that Ralfy thought for a second that what he would be inspiring would end up building something like this. 1,000 reviews, he's way beyond that now. He did that on his own. That's his own output. That's his own achievement. Fantastic. Ralfy's character, what suits him, what suits his mood, what suits his vision, and everything since 2009 until today is very much doing it Ralfy's way, his own way. I don't think he factored collaboration in at any point in his YouTube journey. I know he did in his whiskey journey because he was a member of the Glasgow Whisky Club. He's constantly speaking to people inside whiskey. He is very much connected to loads and loads of other whiskey people. But in terms of YouTube and things like that, collaboration wasn't something that Ralfy saw in the future, I'm pretty sure. And I think we could probably count on our hands how many times we'd witnessed Ralfy collaborate up until maybe, I mean, he joined me to celebrate 10 years in 2019. But again, that would have been another finger on your hands, right? But then eventually in 2021, when the OSWAs comes around, Ralfy knows that he's going to have to step outside of his comfort zone a little bit and open up to leverage the power of collaboration for everybody to come together, for it not to be the Roy and Ralfy Awards, for it to be representative of the community and everyone involved in that community and everyone involved in guiding that community. I think collaboration is... before I was involved in whiskey, before I was involved in YouTube, I was very, very aware of the potency and power of collaboration in my professional life. I had a very, very good CEO that I worked for, and one of his most effective things that he did in his business life was work out when it was appropriate to use collaboration. And he used it very, very well in a very, very potent and powerful way. So when I came into whiskey and discovered that whiskey was already a very collaborative environment, from an industry perspective, it's, you know, some people would suggest it incestuous. Other people would say that it's very symbiotic. Other people would say it's just lots of cask trading and things like that. But generally speaking, at all levels of whiskey, there's a huge amount of looking out for each other and collaborative spirit, which is rare in industry. When I discovered that that was part of whiskey, I fell in love with whiskey even more. So it made sense for me when I started to consume things online to yearn for more collaboration online. I was inspired to step forward into the YouTube space when I saw that spark happening. And it originally happened for me with the Scotch Test Dummies channel at Scott and Bart, when they started to do their live streams and bring in other people from whiskey, and specifically other creators and other YouTube channels and things like that. Everything came alive for me. Suddenly being in front of a camera was something that I was inspired to participate in. That was the power of people working together to learn, to appreciate, to understand. Just for people to be people in the same space, excited about the same thing. That was 2017 for me. Scotch Taste Dummy started in 2016. Fascinating, fascinating. And I think the product, the offering for the community is much better too. I think when you guys see all these kind of crossover projects happening with different channels and things like that, I think it's interesting for me, to somebody that watches the content as much as creates it, to see people working together. What say you? Ginger Genius John is saying, Ralfy was my intro to whiskey too, but together you don't do bad. Thank you very much, John. That's nice of you to say so. I think we are very, very different in so many ways, but it's amazing how we agree on so many things too. Chris Polak is saying, my guides when I started my whiskey journey was Horst, Looning, Ralfy, and this special Glaswegian and his distillery pronunciation videos. Hey, thank you very much, Chris. I often wish I could redo those videos, believe me. That music in the background. Jimmy Legacy, and I prefer to imagine you didn't exist before YouTube, Aquaviti. That way I can feel like I created you. You're a very, very interesting man with an interesting mind, Jimmy Leg. Whiskey Weekend Drama saying, did you hear about... It's kind of funny you say that, though, because in a lot of ways, the personality, the persona that you see right now sitting on camera has been created not just by you, Jimmy Leg, unfortunately, but by everybody that's come to be here. Anybody that knows me in real life will know that this is a slightly more refined version of me, and I think that's the way it probably should be. Whiskey Weekend Drama is saying, did you hear about the new awards from Dram One Whiskey site, who wants can buy a set of 16 samples and rate them blind, sold out in one day. Amazing initiative. This is the type of initiative that needs to catch. It needs to be integrity forward. It needs to be honest, and it needs to find some way to endure. So how do they get the 16 samples? That type of thing. What we're trying to do is obviously leverage the power of the community that so many thousands of people have tried all these, or a lot of these whiskies. That's a very, very specific, different way of doing about it, and very interesting it is as well. Some drams coming in. One from our back garden. Thank you very much. Cheers to Ralfy, saying the whiskey and other fine spirits. Don, his other channel, Fitter Philosophy, has some good content too. Thank you very much, our back garden. I think that's the first time I've mentioned your name, is it? And yet you're a barfly with a wee gold barfly too. Thank you for your dram, and thank you for your support. Cheers. Just realising I'm straight into Ralfy's Glenord, without even nosing or tasting or anything. I have actually tasted it before. Whiskey Novice Jim is in. Yourself, Ralfy, Vin, Whiskey Vault, etc., etc. I learnt from you all. I wanted to share my opinions. The community, thankfully, are willing to listen. I think this is what I want to talk about. Whiskey Music has bought me a dram as well to say Aquaviti and the Scotch Taste Dummies. What a combination. I salute you. Yeah, I miss those boys. You know, it's been a wee while since we've actually got on video together. We used to do it regularly back in the day, but the pre-COVID days, we were regularly on camera together, and those guys were great fun. I got to hang out with them a few times, both sides of the Atlantic, and it was brilliant times too. Whiskey Music, thank you for your dram. Whiskey Novice, thank you, and our back garden. Cheers to you all. An excellent cast strength, very creamy, lovely, delicate sweetness. Glenord is a fantastic distillate. It really is. And I think this is clearly an ex-bourbon cask as well. I never checked to see what kind of cask it came from, did I? But it tastes like that to me. I'm going to put a wee drop of water in this and just see how we can crack this thing open with a wee drop of water. David Lorenco in Portugal is saying, if there's something to be said about this community, it's how, despite different tastes, opinions, backgrounds, social and economic differences, just how there's not one black sheep in sight. I think that's what I want to touch upon. I think there are millions of black sheep, David, in our community. I really do. I think in whiskey, we can all feel seen. I think in whiskey, we can all feel a little bit welcomed, and we can all feel like this is a safe space for us. Maybe we're a bit introverted and we want to just watch. We don't want to get involved in the chat. Maybe we're introverted, but we do want to just chat a little bit. Maybe we just enjoy getting right in about the chat, listening less to me and just getting involved in a live chat, for as an example of that. You know, I think there's space for all of that, all of the characters, all of the sensibilities. But you're absolutely right. I often talk about how it doesn't matter how we vote, how we eat, how we pray. It doesn't matter about where we are from. It doesn't matter. Lots and lots of things that somehow manage to make themselves matter in other inappropriate places doesn't seem to matter much in whiskey. Maybe this is a safe space for a black sheep. And when you're talking about potentially a black sheep being somebody that's disruptive, or somebody that's a bit of a spam merchant, somebody that just kind of likes being a bit negative or noising people up or trolling, our community is pretty good at cleansing that. We're precious about this. Well, it happens in the vPub. It happens regularly in the live chat and in the comments underneath the video. You'll get somebody going, shouting or being rude or being bizarre or whatever it may be, but it just gets cleansed. It just gets mopped up. We really like this space. We love it. We love everything, all the positivity that it's brought to us, and we want to preserve it. David Hong has bought me a dram as well. David, I know you never say anything. I'll just mark a wee like and a love heart next to that and raise a wee glass to say thank you for your generosity once more, David. Hope you're keeping well over in the States, buddy. Cheers. Much improved with that, just a few wee drops of water in there. Lots of fruit forward, creamy fruit forward, white fruit, bit of stone fruit, bit of orchard fruit. A wee delicate bit of white pepper and spice in there too. Just a classic Highlander, a classic ex-bourbon. I would have to say that this is tasting a wee bit more than its 10-year age statement. I think it's a 10-year-old. Yep, 10-year-old Glen Ord. I would probably place this in the early to mid-teens. It's quite refined and balanced. Good pick. Andy Hill's saying evening and wonderful barflies. Home from work with a dram poured, an Aquavitae Daft Mill. Slantia. It's a good one. I wonder how many of us have got an Aquavitae Daft Mill still kicking around. Unfortunately, I rinsed my last open bottle. I do have a sealed bottle, but you can understand why I'd be a wee bit precious about that. We'll go on to talking about that in a wee bit later. If we talk about collaboration, we're talking about not just collaboration amongst the channels like I'm talking about. I'm also talking about the ability to collaborate, and it didn't really exist before, for the industry to collaborate with creators immediately means that they're collaborating with the community because the lines are suddenly blurred. When we first appeared, whether it was blogs, video blogs, whether it was YouTube or whether it was a web space, there was a clear, that's their space and this is our space. There was industry messaging, and then there was kind of enthusiast spaces popping up, and there was a dividing line between them, and you felt that. And I felt that from very early in my whiskey days when I was reading industry created content. It was very, very clear. The language was obvious, and I think that still exists today, unfortunately. Whereas you could see enthusiasts created content was much more compelling to me because it was based on experience and individual critique and individual experiences. It was honest. There was no kind of script. There was no kind of profit or goal to be chased there. It was honesty. And I loved that. But today in 2025, and for a lot of years now, there's a lot of the industry who care, who are very, very happy to step forward in the spirit of collaboration. Yeah, you want me to appear on the vPub? That'd be great, Roy. It'd be a pleasure, no problem. You want me to answer some questions for your article? You want me to do this? You want me to do that? Or whatever. We can approach them now and say, hey, we're doing this. Are you interested? And it was only a decade ago that it would have been a flat no. We don't do that. It doesn't happen now. Why is that suddenly interesting? Why is that changed? Is it because of how polished the production is? Is it because of I can't remember who suggested I might be handsome now, and I've always forgotten that, but somebody said, is it because of that? It's nothing to do with that. It's nothing to do with me. It's nothing to do with what I create or anybody that does what I do or anything similar that acts in some form of kind of soapboxing. It exists. That dynamic is born because of you. Because there's an audience. Because there's people who give a crap. Because there's people that turn up. And like me in those early days where I was enjoying that enthusiast voice more than the industry voice, there's a draw for it. There's a value to it. There's a reason to turn up again. They don't want to hang out with Roy. They've got no interest in hanging out with me. Maybe a few of them like me. That's okay. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be part of it. They're here because they can get their message out. They're here because they can talk about their products. They can talk about their passions. They can talk about what's interesting them. They can talk about the things that they pick up that might be interesting to their communities or the people that they can potentially sell a product to. So the lines are starting to get blurred, and it has only been blurred because there's an audience. There's only an audience because there's a community, because there's people who care. So when I talk about collaboration, I'm not just talking about the Online Scotch Whisky Awards and all of these amazing channels and creators and talented people getting together to do this thing. When I say talented, I'm obviously not talking about myself. I'm talking about collaboration between the industry. I'm talking about collaboration between the industry and those creators, contributors, commentators, whatever you want to call them. It's only happened because of the potency of community and of the audience, the positivity, and the desire that people can recognize that there's a value in independent voice, critique, content, opinion. I'm very, very, very grateful for it. I'm also grateful to a generous dram that's come in from Dave in BV. Where's BV? Bavaria? Hi, Roy. There's a little something for a dram. Enjoy. Dave, I know you've got a barfly next to your name as well, but I feel like this might be the first time I've welcomed you, my friend. Thank you very, very much for your generosity, Dave. I'll raise a wee glass to you. Thank you for supporting tonight and as a barfly. Cheers. Jimmy Legg has bought me, 2 drams, that a duplicate? See, when you look around that chat and you can't tell who the jackass is, even the ones that I might deserve the moniker of a jackass, they're good jackasses, Jimmy. I can tell you exactly why people always say yes to you. You represent everything that is good about whiskey because you love it so much. Your lead is very easy to follow. Jimmy, this is why we like having you in here, right? You know, 1 minute your tongue is as sharp as a knife, and the next minute it's a big lick of warm and fuzzy velvet. Thank you very, very much, buddy. It's very nice of you to say that. Jimmy, you're atypical, I would say. Thank you for being around. Thank you for being as generous and as warm, as funny, and bringing all your humour and colour that you do to it all the time for all the length of time that you have. But not everyone will enjoy me or my content. But we're in a very fortunate position that there's a bunch of other creators and places and spaces and creations out there that are available to them that will fit their vibe and their mood a lot better. And they exist because of the exact same dynamics that exists here. Community. Annabelle is saying, well, for big companies, it's a big marketing effort. AG Nick Offerman in Lagavulin, or Harrison Ford and Glenmorangie. More recently, we've got Willem Dafoe, haven't we, for Lefroy, although he does love Lagavulin. But yes, this whiskey community is able to do a lot more now, and that's exciting. Let's imagine the Nick Offermans and the Willem Dafoes and the Harrison Fords and Beyonce and I forget the guy from Outlander, Sam, can't remember. All of these celebrities out there creating these whiskies, earnestly creating these whiskies, or being paid significant amount of money to step on board as a face or a brand or whatever. Let's imagine that they are actually functioning It doesn't matter if it's a shallow level. It doesn't matter how. If they're functioning to bring people into whiskey, there's a good chance that there's going to be a proportion. It might just be a sliver, but a proportion of people that will taste that liquid and go, "Oh, this is for me. This is my vibe. I like this. Oh my goodness, this tastes nothing like what I imagined, or much better than I remember. I want to taste more." Because if we all go back to our origin stories, a lot of us might have something a little bit similar to that. Jim Whiskey Novice is saying, the whiskey community has changed whiskey, in my opinion. Our voice is being listened to. I find it quite incredible how much effect we are having. Absolute respect to producers and all of us. Well, I think we're having an effect where we are, so kind of smaller companies, more craft forward. It's difficult to use the craft word, isn't it? More integrity forward, a smaller scale. The ones that are producing malt whiskey for malt whiskey's sake, let's say, that are selling to malt whiskey drinkers, malt whiskey appreciators, and they know that there is a sector, there's a chunk or a certain profile within that community of whiskey drinker that's very vocal. Either they're vocal because they're in live streams and things like this, or they're the super vocal, if you like, the people that step up to switch on the cameras and do it. And I think that we are hopefully having an effect, but I don't think we're shoving needles in huge directions. I think it's like little degrees, and sometimes it bounces back. We have a huge effect, I think, on the companies who are engaged and willing to listen and their product is aimed at us. But the ones that, in some of the quiz questions tonight, when we talk about the sheer scale of the industry that we're dealing with here, you can start to understand that it doesn't make sense for us to have an effect. And when we do have an effect, it tends to be more anecdotal feedback. There's nothing, it's tough to measure what we're doing. Regardless, Jim, I would say that you on your channel, specifically you on your channel, the style of presentation that you have, the accessibility, the endearing nature of your personality comes right across. And it makes it very, very easy for me to curl up on the sofa with a Whiskey Novice video and a dram and just enjoy what you're putting out there, Jim. And I have to be honest with you, I will learn something watching Jim Whiskey Novice videos. I will learn from you, but that's not why I'm tuning in. Somebody mentioned here, talking about the love of it, the passion for it, and I think that's what we enjoy. So we're gathering with kindred spirits, like-minded souls. It feels like a download. We're watching like a presentation, but I also know you, Jim, and I know your live streams, and I know how you interact with the community and stuff. And it feels like I'm hanging out on that sofa with a pal. It's cool. It makes me feel part of it as well. Warren Tanner is saying, a humble New York City public school teacher by way of Canada. I'm forever indebted to this community for saving me valuable time and money. Roy, Aquaviti and Barflies, you are my North Star. Warren, I know you've been in here for a long time, buddy. It's nice to see you in here tonight. And it's nice to read such positive sentiments from you. That means a lot. Thank you, Warren. George L. in Arizona is saying, Aquaviti and Jimmy, like, communities are born and grow initially by leaders, both good and bad. Roy's integrity and kindness have attracted a like group. That's why I am a barfly. George, that's why I love having you here as well. Like I say, the persona that I have here with you in the vPub is a slightly refined version of Roy. My family, I think, would like to have more of this and less of what the grumpy fart pants that they have walking about the house complaining about things right, left and centre. But I think that we all go out into the world with a slightly refined version of ourselves, maybe with the exception of our Jimmy Leg. The community is the future of the industry, Roy. The smart ones will embrace it and engage with it, says Sean Causa. Good to see you in, Sean. Nice to welcome you, buddy, and I agree with you. Sandra is saying, come on, Roy, before this community headed by Ralfy, who even talked about non-chill filtration and natural colour, etc. The community is being listened to for sure. Well, yeah, Ralfy charged and empowered, and he kind of gave that a real injection of adrenaline, all of that kind of, he supercharged that discussion, no doubt. But before I knew that Ralfy existed, I knew that I didn't know how big a deal it was, if I'm honest. Ralfy put it in language that I understood. I knew about chill filtration. I knew about natural colour. The people that I was meeting in my life, and we had that kind of spark to talk about whiskey. We had that discussion very early on in the early days. I remember in the very, very early days before I enjoyed PT whiskey, Ardbeg being held up as one of these examples of an integrity producer because it had chosen to launch its 10-year-old as fully natural. And I remember this friend of mine who I used to work with championing Ardbeg because of those dynamics. And that kind of made me curious. But it didn't stop me picking up all the things that were chill filtered and heavily coloured, right? But yes, the choice, the selection that we've got today, Sandro, compared to the days that what the back then, it's huge. The natural whiskies is amazing. Whiskey Novice is saying cheers, Bob, means a lot. Thank you, Jim. Sugar Kitty is saying, I suggest changing the channel name from Aquavite to Grumpy Farpants Whiskey. Yeah. Sorry, sometimes the veil does drop a wee bit, right, Jeff? Nice to have you in. So I think that you being here, you have empowered the ability to bring meaning to collaboration. You make it attractive, you make it fun, you make it worthwhile. And when I say collaboration, I'm not just talking about me hanging out with another YouTube channel. I'm talking about me having the ability to collaborate with industry. Ralfy's bottling his Glen, or this is probably a cask of his own, but I've just held up an example of Vin collaborating with the industry for that delicious Madeira cask. There's another one down here that I'm going to uncork in a second from another YouTube channel. So there's lots of different ways that we can look at this empowerment that we enjoy, this privilege that we have, only because people like you, our audience, our community, turn up and care. Yes, everyone should know that Aquavite and Roy Duff are not the same person. Amazingly, Roy Duff is far superior. Have a whiskey with Roy Duff sometime, you'll see. You've had a couple of whiskies with me over the years, haven't you, Jimmy? Cheers, fella. Thank you for another dram. Watch the spending tonight, big guy. I love you, man. Cheers. I'll get a row for telling him to watch his spending. Marco is saying, I think even Beam Suntory's listening to us now. They have released a Lafroig 12 year at 46. Natural colour and natural, non-chill filtered natural colour. Listen, we saw the cracks of optimism appear at Glengarry from Beam Suntory. The Lafroig has always been a mixed bag for me. They've had the 48% stuff. They've had the 10-year-old cask strength, which is a banger and things. But then they've just had so much kind of wishy-washy efforts from Lafroig. And it's hard to make a Lafroig wishy-washy, but Beam Suntory somehow managed to do it from time to time. But they've absolutely made a pig's ear, an affront, an embarrassment, a red face of Bowmore, one of our legendary distilleries, an 18th century distillery, one of the most unique spirits that exists on planet Earth, is being abused within an inch of its life by Beam Suntory right now. And they really need to work on fixing that quickly. Official Bowmore right now, if you pick up the non-age statement entry level, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, even up into the 15, and I would go as far to say the 18-year-old age statements, they taste nothing like the whiskey that they were created from. It's an affront. Auchentoshan, copy and paste, the exact same scenario there. Beam Suntory have a lot of work to do, but yes, Mirko, let's put a positive spin on it. You point it out nicely. Thank you so much. Lafroig has absolutely got some flickers of optimism, and I'm interested to try that one as well. Graham Young has bought me a dram to say, Roy, the Barfly community has allowed several of us to become wonderful and hopefully lifelong friends. It means so very much to so many. Cheers and keep the momentum going, my friend. Okay, I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover specifically one of my categories tonight is friendship, and it's beyond. It's difficult. I'll not get emotional talking about it, but it's to try and explain it to people that are not involved in our community. It seems a bit odd. It's almost fishy or suspicious until they're involved in it. Danny Hebbington has been very generous and donated 10 Aquavite gift memberships out to the community. So 10 of you are getting random Barfly memberships gifted to you right now. Thank you very, very much, Danny. And that means that you are helping, and Danny is helping, and all the barflies are helping, keeping all my content absolutely ad-free and getting access to the little barflies and all the channel-themed emoji as well to colour up the live chat and the comment section underneath. If you're interested in supporting and in helping Aquavitae endure as a project, Patreon is where you do that. Thank you so much to all my patrons for their support. I've always got to talk about the difference between a barfly and the YouTube space, and then Patreon, where the actual support comes from. Which brings me on to talking about community and what it can achieve. Let's talk about the projects. Let's talk about the Aquavitae channel. Let's talk about that. If I'd started up and nobody watched, it would very quickly been kind of shut down and just put off to the side in a nice little learning experience. But people turned up, and people turned up again, and more people turned up, and then some more people turned up, and it built, and it reached this point of critical mass. The vPub started. They did the very same thing. The Patreon was switched on. I realized that, oh, wait a minute, I can monetize this thing. Can this be a job for me? Took me a few years to do that and to achieve that and put that together. And it was the push of COVID, of course, that finally killed off my previous life and transformed it into this life. And I'm forever grateful for that transition. A project empowered by you and your support, your finance through Patreon. And of course, the support that you give me here through YouTube and the barfly space as well. Through buying bottles and everything. It's an amazing thing. But when I talk about projects, I'm talking about bigger than this space. We've talked enough about the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. I don't want to talk about that anymore because Jimmy will get annoyed. But suffice to say that I think is probably the biggest example of community-empowered projects that we imagined by just working together. Can I talk a wee bit about Dramface as well? Because there's a million projects out there by a million whisky entities all doing their own things and coming up with their own stuff. Like I say, we're only limited by our imagination what we can achieve. But from me and what I've been inspired to do, Dramface started right after the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. The Scotch Whisky Awards came out in 2021. Dramface kicked off in 2022. But we'd been building it in the background since 2021. Dramface has 30 active writers now. I've a legacy of probably 40 plus writers with 30 active right now and weekly active, I would say, or at least somebody that people that put in an article, let's say every month, 15 different writers and a team behind it looking after the technical side of things, looking after the editorial side of things, looking after the function and the mechanics of the site. It costs a lot of money to realize Dramface. It costs a lot of hours to realize Dramface. Dramface can only exist by that spirit of community coming together. Like-minded people finding a space that they enjoy creating, and like-minded people finding a space that they enjoy consuming and reading. We pay for Hiver. It's a completely different platform for the comment section underneath so that the site can be given the same kind of sentience that's given to YouTube by the interaction in the comments. That exists on Dramface. And it does bring this sense of vibrance in life. It's worth the money. It's worth the investment. It's community. It's making a difference. We look at the stats behind the scenes, stats that we do not target at all. We've got no growth charts or things to hit, or we just don't care. The numbers are the numbers, and we read the numbers and we use it as feedback. We don't care what we hit on Dramface, but it's growing like a weed. Generally speaking, a flat number would be 50% year on year, but this year it's ridiculous. It's 80 and 90%, depending on the stats that you want to compare year on year. Dramface is growing very, very fast. It's growing in relevance, and because its back catalogue and its library is growing, it's growing in relevance more and more all the time. Just need to Google Whisky Review, or don't be generic. Don't Google Whisky Review. Try that if you want, but Google Glen Review, Google Linkwood Review, Google Macallan Review, Google whatever kind of thing you want. And depending on where you are on the planet, you're going to find that somewhere in the first page, often very, very close to the top, Dramface is going to pop up. That can only happen because of community, because of you. And I know that a lot of you don't read Dramface, but you're here for the Aquavitae side of things. Dramface is very different, but there's a huge overlap. And there's a lot of other people out there, community involved in Dramface as well. It's not me and Jason and the original founders of Dramface. That's not what created Dramface. Dramface would have died on its feet if nobody had bothered with it. People did bother with it, and they came back to read it again and again and again, and it built. That's the community that gives it life. You permit it to exist. I know that it's obvious, but it can't be overstated. Overland Drams might be involved in Dramface. Looking forward to the OSWAs this year. Going to be a good one. Good to see you, Chuck. Hope you're keeping well, my friend. Gene Kelly's saying Dramface and the vPub are perfect siblings. Know one and love both. Thank you very much, Gene. It's nice to see you in tonight, and it's going to be nice to welcome you to Glasgow too, buddy. Matthew Voiles has just joined the Aquavitae Barflies. Matthew, I've welcomed you into the Patreon side of things as well. I'll raise a glass to thank you for your support on Patreon, and thank you for supporting us a Barfly too, buddy. There's just the tiniest wee nick in this Glen cairn, and I just, every time I lift it up, it seems to catch me on the beak. Big Pour is saying, I tune into every vPub, but don't always chat. When I meet up with this community, you have created those that are the best of days. Like-minded people and fantastic company. Neil Laverty, Big Pour. Of course, it's Neil. Good to see you, buddy. You're one of the most fun, laughy, just great fun guys to be around as well, Neil. It's quite surprising to me that you don't enjoy chatting as much, but I understand why. And I think you're part of the majority, actually, the people that just kind of just sit back and read and watch. Falscraft is saying, yes, the community is absolutely fabulous, but if there weren't people presenting things in a way that's attractive, the community wouldn't be attracted. I don't doubt that that's true, buddy. I don't doubt that that's true. However, I think there's also an argument for the more attractive you make it, the more barriers go up. Like if you watch the production quality, the production values of the industry produced stuff, it's just silky gorgeous to look at, right? It's amazing. But you're never going to get that here. I'm just hoping that you can hear me clearly. Jimmy Legg is saying, Whiskey Novice and Whiskey People, no surprise that I love them both. Jim's an easy guy to love, Jimmy. He really is. If you want more examples of projects, think of what the Glasgow Whisky Festival has become for this little channel, right? Every year, we're all getting excited. We're building up to that kind of that amazing thing of the community coming together in a way that demonstrates to us, and I'm going to get onto this in the next subject. It's not, we talk about the vPub. The V in vPub is virtual, that small v, but it's a small v because there's no virtual about it. That's why it's not a capital V. The vPub is always a small v, the virtual pub. Yeah, the space itself, the concept of a room or something that we're all standing or sitting or relaxing, and it's virtual, but there's nothing virtual about everything else that touches it. I don't care if you're in Nova Scotia, if you're in Hong Kong, if you're in Milton Keynes, if you're in Glasgow, if you're in, it doesn't matter where you are, there's nothing virtual about what you're doing. We're hanging out together. And things like the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend hammer that home so powerfully that it's emotional. Everything's heightened. Everybody's just so happy to be together and realize that Big Pour, Neil Laverty, is a real guy and he's a great guy. And we love to hang out with him. And we wish we could hang out a wee bit more. But we'll take it one weekend a year. Jimmy's bought me another dram. Watch the spending, lol. I'm just realising that if it not for Roy and Graham Young's generosity, I never would have known that Peter and Denise Lee existed. That would have been a real crime. Listen, I think you're gonna make me kind of skip on from the projects thing and onto the next topic, the last topic for tonight, honestly speaking. I'm going to try and keep the vPub a little bit neater tonight. I know I always say that and I usually fail, but we'll give it a go. Because I'm traveling this weekend, as you know, I'm away from Friday through Monday. So I'm up early to get it organised and everything. However, let's imagine the Independent Spirits Festival in March next year. That came about through collaboration, people talking to each other, community, all of it. We came up with an idea. We said, let's try it. I don't organise the Independent Spirits Festival. David Sturck is the one saddled with all that organisation, believe me. He's the guy behind the machine. I marvel at that thing that's just popped up, that's just come out of an idea, a discussion, a need, a realization that this could be fun. In March next year, it's going to be the second Independent Spirits Festival, and I can't wait. So we've now got, at the end of the year, Glasgow Spirits, so almost closing out the whisky season, if you like. We've got the Glasgow Whisky Festival in early November. And then to kick off the whisky season, we've got Fife Whisky Festival. It's usually about the end of February. And then in March, we've got the Independent Spirits Festival in Edinburgh and Leith. Whisky carries on right through the winter. And it's really nice that those things are bookending, that kind of idea of kind of whisky season, if you like. There's just no way that the Independent Spirits Festival would have had the desire for it to exist for a second year if it wasn't for the buy-in, the enthusiasm, the energy, the life that was brought to that event in 2025 by the community. The independent bottlers that attended as exhibitors did their level best. They put on a show like I've never witnessed before, like an event I've never been at before, sharing whiskies that I've never had the privilege to try before. They really put their best foot forward. But the community, the right spot on target audience was in that room, and it made it all worthwhile. Yes, you are the thing that makes the difference. Alistair Gray celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 67 months. Roll on Independent Whisky Festival. Can't wait. I'm sure you're going to love it, buddy. Peter Lee is in. Good to see you, Peter. And Rick Johnson is saying, Peter Denise, a wonderful gift from the community, Blair. Absolutely. They really, really are genuinely just beautiful creatures, beautiful people. Andy Hill's saying a great community requires a great community dram. Aquaviti, I don't know what it is. Still enjoying that, Andy? Once you don't polish it off too quickly, buddy, because it's long sold out. Never seen socks like that at a festival, Aquaviti. Mark Watt and Guy Satchwell, absolutely, Gordon. Funny, and it's all to do with the line that Mark came out with and threw away in the documentary. As Mark says, I think Mark was in earlier tonight. I'm not sure if he's still here. It could be socks, right? Gordon Fraser saying, look forward to the Indie Spirits Fest. It'll be your first one as well, won't it, buddy? But of course, I've just said buddy as well. All of you are drawing me towards the conclusion of all of this thing. Nothing of it is virtual. We're all real. As I said to you, and this is where things get a wee bit sentimental, but I'll keep it dead straight. Through my life, as I've got older, you know, you had your friends from work and your friends that from growing up and your crazy friends that you went out drinking with when you had no responsibilities, whatever it was. But through life, they dissipate, you know, relocation, career changes, maybe relationship changes. They get married and they go off and they're married and they have a family now. Or worse, they get divorced and they split up and they go in different directions. And so your friendships, there's this decay that can happen. And I felt that throughout my middle age. You know, where's what's happening to these friends I used to look forward to seeing at weekends, and what's happening? And then suddenly, as if it was like this, just my regular friends that I knew before whiskey are literally complaining, saying that, Roy, we don't hear or see you anymore because you're always out with your whiskey friends, right? And they've probably got a point. I need to make more of an effort, but my point stands. I've got no business having the amount of friends that I have today. I didn't have before I stepped forward into the whiskey space to understand how fabulous it was. I've got my wife to thank for that. Let's close this poll down. I asked the question. I usually avoid potential OSWA nominations at this time of year. Do you think that that matters? Yes, you should avoid them. 23% only. Wow. No, I don't think it matters much. 77%. However, thank you, all those people that really, really trust that I'm going to be able to make a clear definition between OSWAs and things like that, and you trust yourselves to make your own decisions and not be influenced easily. That's all great. But I think that there's some pragmatism and some canny thinkers also in the 23% thinking maybe it's best that you avoid them because it takes the discussion off the table. I was interested to see where you guys would feel it. We could have more discussions about that, but we're not going to. Let me put it this way. If I talk about things that over the course of the next few weeks while the OSWAs are live that happen to be in the OSWAs, how much of a difference would that be over me talking about those things in the summer or the spring or after the OSWAs are over? If you're going to be influenced by me talking about whiskies during the OSWAs, maybe you're going to be influenced about me talking about whiskies outside of the OSWAs. The reason I ask the question is that the content that I put out there is hugely affected if I choose not to talk about OSWA potential clashes while they're live. Over the course of the next few weeks, a lot of the topics I had listed for the vPubs are off limits. I just can't talk about the top 5 best whatever, the most wanted whatever. It's too much overlap with Online Scotch Whisky Awards, and the products involved there's too much overlap. So I kind of rejig things and I push things down the road a little bit and hope that I'm still enthused to talk about it when it comes around again. I think it's still the canny thing to do, and I'm going to continue to do that. But we're talking about friends and friendships. We're talking about the fact that nothing that we're doing is virtual. Falscraft is saying appearances are one thing, facts in the community are another in terms of what influence votes. Facts, absolutely. I agree with that. And Greg's Whisky just saying that's the most striking of it. I never thought being so friendly with someone I still haven't met in life like Menno, and this is because of the vPub. So thanks, Roy. Well, thank you very, very much for making it specifically about the vPub, Greg. But I would suggest to you that if the vPub didn't exist, there would be spaces out there where you and Menno would absolutely be overlapping. Thank you for being part of the vPub, however, Greg. Thank you. Inverurie Whisky Shop. Mike, good to see you, buddy. Evening all. Sorry I'm late to the show tonight. Aquaviti, different priorities for a few weeks. No problem. Yeah, I know what it's like, buddy. It's a distant memory to me, but congratulations. Congratulations to you. Listen, while we're on the thought of congratulations and Mike's new member that he's welcomed into the family, congratulations, Mike. I'm going to open something here, a collaborative product from my pals Andrew, Drew, Mark and Sean over at the Scotch 4 Dummies in Indiana. This is unopened. I have not opened this yet. It's at one of their collaborative bottles. Thanks to the community, this was able to be purchased in the States and muled to me by the superstar friend, a friend I didn't have before whiskey, Gregor McQuee. He brought this for me, and it's getting opened tonight because Mark, Drew, Sean, and Andrew, I've met 3 out of 4 of them. Yeah, I've still to meet one. I've still to meet Sean. But the virtual friendship has been rendered a physical friendship. Anyway, Mark, Drew, and Andrew, I've met them all. And we've enjoyed some drams together too. But I'm going to pour this to welcome in the new arrival from Mike and his family. Well, he's going to get a nice glug here. This is a chocolate malt Texas Andalusia whiskey. Andalusia single malt, American single malt. It says on the back that it's aged for 25 years, but when you look closer, I don't know if it's going to focus, it actually says aged for 2.5 years. But it does look like 25, doesn't it? 2.5 years. So it says Texas single malt whiskey on the label, but they couldn't call that whiskey in the UK because it's less than 3 years old. But let's give it a wee taste. Let's raise a glass to the new arrival, as I say, but also to my friend Lee Hosey, whose birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Lee. Congratulations, Mike. Cheers. I'm not going to stop there. Super Barfly, personal friend, somebody I get to hang out with fairly regularly, is enjoying a birthday today. I don't know if he's in tonight. He might just be watching in the background, but I'm going to say many happy returns to my pal, Neil Cochrane, who's often in the vPub, member of the Glasgow Whisky Club, local pal, somebody I have met here through whisky. Happy birthday, Neil. Cheers. But I'm not going to stop there. Thanks to Helen for giving me the heads up on all of these birthdays. The superstar Helen, sometimes I feel like she's a wee bit like a PA. She's wonderful. On Saturday, it's the birthdays of Alan Smith, my pal Alan Smith, who I'm looking forward to seeing back in Glasgow, hopefully in November, and the guy who brought me this whiskey, superstar, bottle chaser, podcast host extraordinaire, and a pretty cool character, Gregor McQueen. Alan, Gregor, big guy. Many happy returns. Cheers. Happy birthday to you all. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything over the years. I hope your birthdays are fantastic. Sugar Kitty's saying, I have my Anok 18 to toast Mike. Good for you, Jeff. I think it's a perfect dram. Enjoy it while you can because they've dialed down the specs on Anok releases, as you know. It's going to be a lot more watered down going forward. Gina saying, you do not want to taste a 25-year-old whiskey from Texas. It would be over-matured. I think it would be vapor. Wouldn't it, Gene? You're spot on. Andy Hells is saying, commented earlier, but will repeat, so many fantastic friendships have been born out of this amazing community that you created, and for what we can never thank you enough, Aquaviti. That's very nice of you, Andy. But I think generally, as I say, this is not just happening in this channel. I don't know if I do humility well, right? But it's happening everywhere that these whiskey spaces spring up. Whiskey clubs spring up. It's just friendships all over the planet. I keep talking about the guys that are in Lisbon. It's a perfect example. We've got Bruno and Seb K and David. They're all regularly in here. We've got the boys in Arizona. I've got people all over England, people all over Europe, people Scandinavia and Asia and everything. Friendships that are getting together. Oh, met you in the vPub. The vPub, what's the virtual pub? There's nothing virtual about us. These friendships are real because the people are real, because the community is real. Pete Head is saying, let's not forget Hellswood. She has her birthday on Sunday. Well, she never told me that she had her birthday on Sunday. She told me about everybody else's birthday, which is yet another marker of our community. Helen, I aspire to your humility levels. Let's fill the chat with hearts for our pal, Hellswood. She's not been chatting tonight because I suspect that Andy's driving the keyboard tonight. But she's no doubt sat there on the sofa. I hope her health is well on the way to get much, much better. It was wonderful to hang out with her the other week there. And I'll raise this glass for the superstar barfly supporter and just brilliant example of the community that is Helen and Andy, of course. But Helen Widdowson, many happy returns for Sunday, Helen. Cheers. I'll add some of those hearts too. That's brilliant to see it all. That's fantastic. Hearts going in for so many birthdays. I think it's nice to mark somebody's special day. Helen doesn't need hearts from me, Jimmy Legg. She knows she has mine. Fantastic, Jimmy. Fantastic. I'm a friend of Jimmy Legg, of Peter Lee. I mean, just look at these names that are in here tonight. People that I've met in real life. People that I've genuinely enjoyed hanging out with and spending time with. It's incredible. It doesn't make a lot of sense, actually. But if I was to scroll up, Martin Fielder, Mirko, Gerben, Mark Slinger, Alan Smith, Klaus Falsgraf. I mean, I've met all of you people. Graham Young, Jimmy Legg, Peter Lee, Derek McGrainer. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. It's just so many names. I would say the majority of you I am yet to meet. But there's just so many of you in here that I've been able to hang out with. It's fabulous. We are friends. Jimmy Jazz is here. All my friends are here. Love you all. Jimmy, you're just an amazing... How did you all come to be here? How can this be possible? People come first in everything. The thing that comes next, in our context, it's whiskey. And then the least priority is whatever we all manage to get together and make, the products, the projects, whatever it is. But all of this chain, this wonderful kind of microcosm of this thing that is whiskey, all of it can exist because we prioritize the people. We value the people. We see them as humans, and we know we don't need to talk about the things that divide us. We don't even need to consciously consider that. We just don't care. We move past that, and we enjoy the people for people's sake. Whiskey is just the most amazing thing. I know it's not unique. There must be other things that are out there that do similar things. Maybe wine and beer, maybe other kind of alcoholic drinks, maybe pursuits like fishing and classic cars and sports and golf. I don't know. Travel. I don't know what else. Maybe there are other things, but I've found whiskey, and through me discovering whiskey, I've found you, and I will never, ever, ever cease to be amazed. So when I'm working away in the background, and when I'm swamped and I'm juggling the Dramface and the Only Scotch Whisky Awards and the content for the channel and all the other projects that I'm involved in, some of them you know about and you're very aware, and other ones are for the future you don't know about yet. And it's busy. And I wonder how I'm able to keep this energy level up, because I love it, because it's a privilege that's been afforded to me by a community that is difficult for me to explain to people. It's difficult for me to even appreciate right now because of how unreal it seems almost at times. But it's difficult for me to explain it to other people. So these really quite, maybe a little bit self-indulgent, contemplative, reflective vPubs have been an occasional thing in the past, and there will only be an occasional thing in the future. Because I don't think we need to say it too much. I think we all feel it and we all appreciate it. But I think the more that we do to recognize it and to realize that we value it, the more people can maybe understand it, the more that people can maybe get their head around it, and the more we've got a chance to help it endure. The projects that it helps create, the imagination that it helps inspire, everything that comes from it is possible because of the attitude, because of the positivity, because of the general caliber of people that make up our amazing, vibrant, buoyant, we are only limited by our imagination community. Tom, Whiskey and Wine Trails, has bought me a dram. You superstar, Tom. Again, a guy from Arizona that I've been able to hang out with more than once. Roy, the vPub is real because you made it real. You and Lynn could travel the world and never be in want for a roof over your head. Yeah, I think my wife gets it now. She gets it now. Rick Johnson is here. He's bought me a dram. He's saying, and you've even helped strange Americans find their lost phones. Yeah. It's kind of like when I see, you know, I think I'm going to make a joke out of it, saying, where's your phone, Rick? Have you got your phone? You all right? Have you got your phone, buddy? Listen, Rick, thank you very, very much. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Glasgow again. Tom, I've got a feeling I'll be seeing you in Glasgow too, my friend. It's wonderful to have a dram from both of you. Raise a glass. And I call you both friends. Cheers to you both. So, no, the emotional barrier was kept intact and robust tonight. I've been reflective because of the OSWAs, because of speaking to all the contributors that are involved in the OSWAs, the positivity, the feedback, the enthusiasm I'm getting back from them, feeding off their energy, the Dramface team supporting and just being just superstars that they are, constantly just an amazing group of people in Dramface. And all of it, and I'm right at that super peak point of just buzzing about it all. So the idea of getting together just to do an OSWA themed vPub tonight was never going to happen. And also, I want to keep away from the OSWA topic for a few weeks, or the OSWA overlap for a few weeks. But I think it's been okay. It's been good. It's been cathartic. It's been fun for me to stand up and just try to get across how appreciative I am about the whisky community, from my health, my mental health, my ability to earn from it, for it to become a career choice for me, to look forward to the next time we can all be in the same space together, to look forward to next week's vPub, whatever the topic may be. Just to be part of it is unfathomable. How it just came about, how it happened. The water of life and independent spirits, that must be Greg. He's bought me a dram as well. No comment or anything, but that's probably Greg Schwartz. Greg, if it's you, big guy, I hope this evening finds you very, very well. Again, a friend. Our back garden, I have a sense that we've not met yet. There are no strangers here, only friends you haven't met yet. William Butler Yeats, Slantia from Dublin. Absolutely. And there was a coin I put out, and I used to gift it to evangelists, and I put a quote on it to suggest that there are no strangers in whiskey. Our back garden, I hope that we get a chance to raise a glass together in the future. And Steve Atkins, Steve, I think we've met. I feel like we've met. I'm suddenly second guessing that. The last 6 years I've devoted my Thursday nights to this community, and it's been worth it for real. This is just, I know you've got it, you understand it. Some people that's coming in new, they might say, oh, it's a bit odd, a bit strange, a bit weird. But it's not. It's people, and it's good people. Steve, thank you very much for your dram. Our back garden, thank you for your dram. And Greg, hope it's you. Thank you for your dram, big guy. Cheers. Okay. We're going to correct everything. We're going to turn it from kind of mushy, sentimental, reflective, indulgent things, celebrating, oh, amazing how great a community the whisky community is. I'm going to bring in the quiz at the end and reset everything. Not to be horrible, not to be evil. I will leave that for Menno, for Lord Asshat, right? The wonderful guy that he is. I don't know if Menno's in tonight. But yes, it's a very typical vPub quiz at the end. One or two self-reflective, self-indulgent questions in there. A few questions that are out there talking about the scale and the size of the industry, all designed to be a wee bit challenging and a wee bit tricky. Last week, it was a wee bit too tricky because I think we managed to go over the finish line last week and everybody fell over at some point. Nobody got a 10 out of 10 last week. And I remember a time at the vPub quiz at the end was often like that, and 10 out of 10s were rare. But the knowledge of the community built and built and built. And we eventually got to a point where it was harder and harder and harder for me to come up with quiz questions that still had a bit of challenge around them. And still, they weren't just awkward. They were still had to have a bit of fun and something you could learn from as well. Another dram in from Jimmy, like tonight, he's saying, I can make you cry tonight. Don't make me. No, you will not. You know, you will not. I can make you cry if you stay to play along in the quiz, Jimmy. Doodle the Drama is saying, I just realised I've been sitting in the cold for almost 2 hours, really loving this mushy episode tonight. The mush and whiskey radiating for sure. Just forgive me every now and again, a wee vPub session dedicated to a mushy celebration of just how much I appreciate you all. Peter Lee's bought me a dram as well. Because of you, we have what we have in front of us now. You've enriched us all on here. Whiskey is now secondary when you are around, humbled by you. You're a superstar, Peter. You don't need to say these words. Thank you, buddy. We're all humbled by the amount that you do for our community, the amount of connections that you make, the wonderful host that you are to so many people. And I see that you enjoy it. I see that you love it. I see that it's positive. May it always remain positive and kind and looking out for each other. There's not many spaces in the world today where that is prioritized, I would suggest. Jean Kelly is saying, challenge accepted, Aquaviti. Timothy H is saying, yes, brekkie is done. Dish is done. Bring on the quiz. About pour a cheeky dram of an Oz exclusive malt burn single cask Highland Park 18-year-old Timothy. I like the way you roll. I have to say, I have to comment on just how delicious this wee Texas whiskey is. It's a chocolate malt thing. And I was looking for some of the chocolate malt in there. When you chocolate malt, you're sometimes looking for a kind of rich, dark mocha coffee thing. Sometimes a bit of nuttiness, certainly a kind of roasted aspect, that type of thing. But Texas whiskey is so dense anyway. But for me, what always amazes me is how integrated the alcohol is, despite the fact it's 2.5 years old. What's the ABV? We're 53% ABV. I expected this to say 45. I kid you not. I kid you not. That's shocking. I'm going to pour another wee glass. That went down far too quickly, far too easily. I know I said I'd have one of my Ardnahoes to finish off tonight, but this can wait for another time. I hope you're all enjoying this. I'm going to get together with some patrons and enjoy the Ardnahoe. Listen, there's another bottle on the horizon, imminent, and there might be another one if everything comes together before the end of the year. And I know you'd be thinking, I know a lot of my community is going to come back and say, Roy, we can't, these bottlings that we do, community bottlings, collaborative bottlings, all of that kind of thing, we're doing it. And I can talk about how that came about, but it's not relevant tonight. But we're doing it as an option. And I know that FOMO becomes part of it, but they're not cheap things to do. They're not bargain bottles. They're very, very special, small batch, tiny, very, very curated, specific outturns. They're transient things. You know, but the Ardnahoe's going to be gone, and then we'll move on to something else that you might be able to pick up in the future. You don't need to pick up all the bottles. However, because I was so late in putting out the Ardnahoe, it was supposed to be realised in May, June, July, before the summer break. We should have been able to achieve that, but I dillied and I dallied, and I wanted to change things, and I wanted to push further, and I was probably a pain in the ass, but it ended up being very late before the Ardnahoe came out, but I think it was worth waiting for. It's an amazing whiskey. For 8 years of the vPub, which is November this year, next month after next, it'll be 8 years of the vPub, and I'm going to release an 8-year-old whiskey, a very locally produced, very close to my own heart, very appropriate for celebrating 8 years of the vPub. That's going to be released, fingers crossed, everything going well, for that. Working on that in the background right now. It's very, very mature. I've even got a bottling date for it. And then there is this epic project that I am so excited about that I'm going to find it difficult not to share it with people before it's realized. But if I will start sharing it if I fail. If I manage to keep secret on it until we realize it and it's a physical product that's out there. It's a very, very small outturn, very small, but it epitomizes everything I think that we've spoken about tonight in a very, very tangible, physical way. And I just can't wait to share it all with you. Seb K's bought me a dram to say, Roy, everything you've said tonight grew from the seed you planted and nurtured. Sorry, I have to skip off early, but you'll always be silly and gorgeous to us. Good night to you and the beautiful barflies. If that's what it is, Seb, I like being silly. I really do. And I like being able to call Seb K in Lisbon a friend of mine as well. I look forward to the next time we raise a glass, big guy. Cheers. Fascinating guy, Seb. So is the next release from Loch Lomond going to be Roy's Tears? I can tell you that Loch Lomond is a local distillery and very close to my heart, but the next release is not a Loch Lomond. My patrons know what it is. As I am a no FOMO guy, so I am happy about my bottlings, even if I don't get them. I think that's a nice attitude, Falscraft. Thank you, class. Okay, Sugar Kitty saying, if you like chocolate malts, there are a lot of American single malts with that type of flavors. Try Redwood, Empire, Foggy Burl, ASM, American single malt. California distillery with a good focus on quality. Good tip there, Sugar Kitty. That's the community coming together, putting another product on everyone's radar, right? I've never even heard of Redwood, Empire, Foggy Burl, American single malt. Chocolate malt is only for flavor. There's no alcohol yield from. The malt is roasted to the point of being able to call it chocolate malt. It doesn't yield anything in the way of measurable alcohol. The only reason to use chocolate malt in a mash would be to add additional layers of flavor. This is a fantastically flavored, layered, juicy whiskey. I say whiskey, it's 2.5 years old, but where it's from, in Texas, it is whiskey. Seb is saying, silky. Sorry, I misread that. Silky. But silly works too. Sorry, silky. I've never been described as silky. Gordon Burniston is saying, don't apologise for more bottles of Aquaviti. Missed out in the Ardnahoe, so due my over-dilly-dallying. Oh, you missed out on a good one, Gordon, but hopefully you'll get a chance to pick up a dram or get some community sharing is probably be what's going to happen. All right. Enough chitty chat just before we hit the 2-hour mark. Let's get the quiz on the go and see how we do with that tonight. Listen, I just want to round off tonight by saying that if I go back to, we're going to celebrate 8 years of the vPub in November. If I go back to that evening in 2017 where I was sitting here, just with my finger over the mouse button, nervous, jittering, I mean, general butterflies about pressing the go live button to just kind of, what have I got to offer? Why would I go live or whatever? And clicking that wee go live button and being silly and a rabbit in the headlights and all of that type of thing. I still need to share with you that I feel those same butterflies every single vPub before every time we go live. Every single time it happens. And I think it's because I care about it. I'm serious about it and I want it to be of value. I want it to make a difference. And as I sit here nervous, and it happened again tonight, and I even interacted with you, a couple of you, before I went live tonight, I see the chat and I see you starting to speak to each other, and I feel the energy and the life and everything just starts to vibrate and beat and be. And I settle myself and I say, it doesn't matter if it only matters to one person or a few people or a couple of dozen people. It doesn't matter. If you're enjoying it, go. And I just click and I go. And I have very little regrets. And there is very few aspects of my life where I can say I have very little regrets. Once more, thank you. It's you that does. You literally are the ones responsible for me clicking that go live button every single week. And it's not out of duty, it's not out of responsibility, it's out of genuine pleasure and energy in seeing you in here. Excited for it, regardless of what the topic or subject matter is. Genuinely. Thank you all. Right, Kyle Taylor is saying, good lesson for those who are suffering from imposter syndrome at work. Even Aquaviti gets nervous going live. Imposter syndrome is never going to leave. And I think if imposter syndrome does leave what I'm doing, maybe is that arrogance? Is that just a bit too much comfort? Will I stop taking it seriously? Rick Johnson is saying, every pro feels the butterflies. It's the mark of a superstar. Jesus, Rick, settle down, big guy. You're putting out content as well. You maybe know a lot about it. Andy Hills is saying, cliche or not, all our lives would be so much emptier if you hadn't had the courage to create the vPub. That's wonderful, Andy. I would have loved to think that if I hadn't, you would have found something equally as valuable. But I'm glad I did, and I'm glad you're here. Jason Whiskey Wise is saying, you're a gem to me and all Roy Aquaviti. I love you, Jason. You're a good guy. In this whiskey community, whether they know it or not. Jean Kelly is saying, you don't need to worry. We feel the butterflies as well. Thank you very much, Jean. I look forward to seeing you in Glasgow, buddy. Danny Hebden is saying, I have always said to my boys, if you stop having a knot in your stomach, when you stop on that deck, then you've stopped caring. I think the deck you're talking about, you work offshore. Is that what you're talking about, Danny? It's a good thing to hear you talk about there. B. Ed is saying, I have to watch the replay, as I've hardly been listening way too much, if that's possible, with chatting with the community. You don't need to watch the replay, Frank. You know the drill. You've been around here long enough. You very, very, very much know the drill. Not too late to hit the like button, says Justin, with another dram. You still awake at this time of the morning over there in Hong Kong. It's wonderful to have your support, Justin Wan, and another guy that I've been able to raise a glass with in real life and call a friend. Danny Hebington, you and I need to fix that, don't we? Thank you. I've only dirtied 3 glasses tonight. I'm on track, but I have been pouring double pours. Compared to normal, I'm going to pour one of my Ardnahoe to get the quiz on the go. Oh my goodness, chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. It's chocolate malt. Shouldn't taste, but the finish on that is just milk chocolate. Wonderful stuff. Brian's Cabales. Good. It's wonderful to always have you in, Brian. Celebrating being a barfly for 20 months and saying I hope to see some barflies next year in Scotland. Well, I hope that we can make that be so, buddy. Okay, let's get this quiz in here. I realise that it's not loaded up, so it's going to need a wee nudge to come in. Remember, the quiz at the end is going to be a pain in the backside. It's going to be difficult. It starts off easy. It gets harder. It's always multiple choice, though. So even the tough questions, you can go with scoring the odds, trying to get a 1 in 3 chance of getting it right. Or perhaps you might lean on the community. You might lean on the folk who have been around a wee while. If you are struggling, take a beat. Read the questions. Sometimes that can help you out a little bit. But it's designed to pique your curiosity. It's not designed to make you all feel great at getting another 10 out of 10, although that does happen from time to time. It's here to be a wee bit challenging and a wee bit interesting and a wee bit fun. Last week, I think nobody managed the 10 out of 10. I'm not sure what to expect tonight. More of a mixed batch. Great Friday evening free. Aquavite says Peathead. Steve Atkins is saying, can we get a few more guests in the near future? I'm meeting some amazing people in the distilleries who would love a chat. Steve, it's always on my mind, and I need to probably make more of an effort. The lack of guests on the vPub was more of my thing. I think we can talk about that a wee bit more. Probably for a Patreon lock-in, that would be more appropriate. Ian Bruce is saying excitement and nervous butterflies in the stomach are similar. I always go to my daughters and the team of girls I help coach. Not to worry, but grab the opportunity with excitement. Absolutely. And I think, as I've already admitted, I know that I'm taking it seriously. I know that it still matters to me. Okay, the quiz is up here, and I'm going to start off by pointing out that this wee publication that you see me holding in my hands, the 2025 Malt Whisky Yearbook, over the years, the quiz at the end has been built around, not exclusively, but I would say 80+% of the questions are found in or inspired by topics and data in the Malt Whisky Yearbook. The Malt Whisky Yearbook 2026 is imminent. On the 6th of October, shipments will happen, but you can go and pre-order now. The best value thing there is, and I mean better value than becoming a barfly, seriously. For 15 of your pounds is what I've been paying, $15.95. Typically I've been paying pounds. You can pick up one of the best. It's like a friend, it's like a companion. I've been raving about this, but I can't have the vPub rounding out with a quiz at the end every week, year after year after year, without giving a nod to the Malt Whisky Yearbook. maltwhiskeyyearbook.com, I think, is the address. Pre-order yours now, and it ships on the 6th. You'll probably be one of the first to get it, I hope. I have already pre-ordered my copies. It'll certainly empower you to do a lot better at the quiz at the end. Good luck, everyone. Hi. Graham Fraser's in. Good to see you, buddy. I hope I always have knots in my stomach when I leave. I should probably give up when they leave. Mark Watt, good to see you in, Mark. What are Roy's plans in the weeks ahead to celebrate 8 years of the vPub? I might have mentioned a couple of things tonight. A, to release a collaborative 8-year-old whiskey. B, to host a live event in Glasgow to market. Or C, a special pre-Christmas project that celebrates the vPub in the most literal of ways. Peter is saying C, not been listening, so skip question 1. Frank, you don't need to listen anymore. You've earned your spot. You're the guy in the corner with a seat that is specifically molded around his very shape. It's Frank's seat. Nobody else sits in that seat. Everybody walks into the vPub, and even people who don't know Frank would look at that seat and say, that's not my seat. That belongs clearly to somebody else. You don't need to listen. Did Graham Fraser have the night off last week? Actually, Graham Fraser managed a 9 out of 10 last week, Danny, if you weren't here. Don't put Frank in a corner, says Jimmy Legg. Okay, everyone. Falsgraph is saying A, B, and C. Most people are saying A. Justin 1 is saying A and maybe C. Mel is going for B. Good to see you, Mel. Good to see little Tony as well. Shit, I didn't listen either to little Tony's saying. Danny Hevden is saying, like old water from Emmerdale Farm, Peathead. I'm kind of forcing you, bullying you into listening. If you want to do well at the quiz at the end, Frank will always have a seat here. Hey, Justin Wan is saying all vPubs are live events in Glasgow, aren't they? I suppose they are, if I'm saying that they're not virtual things. Right, okay. Am I going to release a collaborative 8-year-old whiskey to celebrate 8 years of the vPub? Am I going to host a live event in Glasgow to do it? Or am I going to have a special pre-Christmas project that celebrates the vPub in the most literal of ways? I talked about it tonight. It is. I will release an 8-year-old whiskey. And I will also, hopefully, if everything falls into place, see a special pre-Christmas project that celebrates the vPub in the most literal of ways. But depending on how you define what we do in Glasgow in November every year, you might want to take that B as well. So if you said A, B, and C, you can absolutely claim it as a point. But regardless, this week it is a freebie for everyone, regardless of what you answered. Question 2, how many Aqua Vitae collaborative bottle releases have there been so far? The first one was 2022. But we're now in 2025. How many collaborative bottling releases have we had? Similar to the Ardnaho that's just gone out there. A, we're currently counting 6 now. B, actually we have 7. Or C, surprisingly, there are 8. How many Aqua Vitae collaborative bottlings? I told you there would be a couple of questions in here tonight that are a wee bit self-indulgent. Let's get the Ardnaho in the glass, the clean glass. The sample was good. The bottling, thankfully, gratefully, is somehow even better. Little Tony's claiming a half point. No, you can claim a full point, Tony. Ardnamurchan was 2, says Gordon Fraser. So it was Loch Lomond, Ardnamurchan, Loch Lomond, then Daft Mill, then Ardnaho. There are double releases sometimes, so it's tricky. I'll say B, says Greg's Whiskey Guide. Greg, you and the majority of you have got it. Lachlan Mackenzie's admitting going with the flow. Absolutely B. We currently have 7. There was a Loch Lomond, a 10-year-old in 2022. Then we followed that up with 2 Ardnamurchans from Refill Hoggies. Amazing comparison. That happened in 2023. That was supposed to be the first bottling, but it took so long to get it out that the Loch Lomond came out first. Then we followed it up with the everything that was associated around the Loch Lomond with 2 single casks in 2024 and 2025. Earlier this year, we had the Daft Mill, and then we had Ardnaho, which is 7 releases to date. Question 3, let's go back onto whiskey, a little bit less self-reflective. Which of these statements is true about the official bottlings from Tobermory Distillery? Mark Watt, looking at you. A, Tobermory outsells Leitchik 2-1. B, Leitchik outsells Tobermory 2-1. Or C, Tobermory and Leitchik actually sell about the same. This is based on 2022 figures, and we're talking about bottles sold by, so we're counting bottles here. Peter Lay is saying, I think I've got all 6 bottles. I think you're looking for 7 bottles, Peter. What have you got missing? A 10-year-old Loch Lomond, 2 Ardnamurchans, then a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old Loch Lomond. That makes up the 6. No, that's 5. The Daft Mill makes up 6. And then the Ardnaho makes the 7. But I think you would have them all. Surely a banana, says Gordon Fraser. No banana skin here tonight, buddy. It looks like most of you knowledgeable whiskey folk are going for B. Peter Lay is saying, sorry, I mean 7. And Danny Hevington is changing to B. Glad I'll have all in the stash still, says Andy. Rick Johnson saying, unless you slow this quiz down, you're going to miss the 3-hour mark. Oh, I'm going to easily miss the 3-hour mark. No problem, Rick. No problem. Has to be a bit neater tonight. Absolutely spot on. The first questions are designed to be easy, but that's not that obviously easy. But it's true. Leadchick outsells Tobermory 2-1. Quite interesting, right? The peat outsells the fruity and floral. Question 4. In the Dramface Top 40 Distilleries rankings, Talisker is placed in 23rd position. Where is it positioned in terms of single malt sales? So if you were to put Talisker up against, I don't know, Lefroy and Glenmorangie and Glenfiddich and Benromac and all the other single malt sales, where is Talisker placed? In the Dramface Top 40 rankings, it's 23rd. By the way, please hop into the Dramface rankings and update your votes. Please update it. Please update it. We're taking the snapshot next week. Your vote needs to count. You've probably changed your mind since the last time you did it. And if you haven't, re-clicking the submit button again will mean it's included. Anyway, Talisker is much, much higher than that. By higher, I mean further up the charts than the 23rd position. Or is it B, curiously, it's exactly the same position. In terms of single malt sales, Talisker is at number 23. Or is it C, surprisingly lower than that? That means lower down the charts. Where is Talisker in terms of single malt sales? It's a single malt brand. What position is Talisker in? Higher than 23rd? Actually 23rd, or somewhere lower than 23rd? Graham Fraser is out and about and again, like he always is, not connecting to this quiz in my train home. Sadly, I'll follow it later. That's a shame, Graham. Internet issues causing you problems. I know it's a pain in the backside trying to download video when you're on the go. But if you're not in, a lot of people are going to be without a torchbearer to follow. Danny Hibbington is saying, Graham Fraser, no! I still love a good Talisker. Brian Cabayas, I think we all love a good Talisker, right, Brian? Fantastic, unique distillery. Okay, I can tell you that absolutely most of you are very, very knowledgeable. Some of you did trip up a wee bit here by the looks of things. Talisker is much, much higher than that. Actually, it's position 7. It's well inside the top 10. Talisker is the 7th best-selling single malt globally as a brand. Part of the original classic malts in 1988, but it existed even before it was a 10-year-old. It was originally an 8-year-old before the classic malts came out. Question 5 is a picture question. We're looking at a picture of a distillery. It's credited to Ian. This came through WhatsApp. Ian likes to send me pictures every now and again to say, where am I today? And I have to guess where he is. This wasn't the picture. I guessed this picture where he was, but the one he sent me before was of a black chimney, and I couldn't guess where it was. But I'm going to ask you, if you know where this distillery is, who is involved here? Is it A, Stephanie McLeod? Is it B, Oliver Chilton? Or is it C, Billy Walker? So it's an asshat. You need to know the answer to both things to work it out. We're looking at a distillery. Who's involved in that distillery? The OSWA combined with Ralfy and Roy's channels, says Megahunt02, have helped me so much. My enjoyment of knowledge have grown up so much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and bottle. Megahunt2, thank you for those kind words. I have to say that I'm not sure how much knowledge was able to be imparted in tonight's session. Maybe a wee bit of behind the scenes on the OSWAs or something, I don't know. But there's more of that to follow in the weeks ahead. Megahunt02, nice to be able to welcome you in tonight. Thank you for your kind words. Cheers. Brian Cabayas is following Ian Bruce. It's nice when you can blame somebody else, Brian, right? B, it is. Everyone thinks it's Oliver Chilton. You're absolutely spot on. The great man that is Ollie, says Mark Watt, the most underrated person in the industry. He's not underrated by me. I think he's a cracking guy. He's a cracking guy to have in whiskey. He's very much influential. He's created some of the most amazing products. Think of the Elements of Islay, think of the Single Malts of Scotland, think of the Port Askig, think of so many products that he's had his hand on, and he's now doing amazing things up at Tormore. He's a great guy, and he's very much grounded in part of the community as well. That's his vibe. Love having him around, love having him on Whisky. Spot on it is Oliver Chilton. If you answered B, well done, everyone. Everything's going to get a lot trickier now from here on in. Question 6, which of these distilleries, without any fanfare whatsoever, closed in 2017, only to reopen 6 years later? A, Nakhandu, B, Glencadam, C, Tobermory. Which of these distilleries, without any fanfare whatsoever, closed in 2017, only to reopen 6 years later? That means this distillery, one of these distilleries on the list here, have got no vintage of 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. There's no vintage of those going to be coming from whatever specific distillery this is. A, Nakhandu, owned by Diageo, B, Glencadam, owned by Angus Dundee, or C, Tobermory, owned currently by CVH Spirits, Distell, Burnstewart. First Phil Whisky, it looks like somebody's welcoming our Phil. Good to see you, Phil. I don't see you in, but somebody's saying hello to you. If you are here, Phil, it's good to have you, buddy. It's nice to have you participating. I hope you're playing along early in the morning in New Zealand. Okay, a wee bit of a split crowd here. Some going for Glencadam. Nobody going for Tobermory, but the majority going for Nakhandu. Stevie O is in. Good to see you, Stevie. Big Ed is here. Graham Young, fantastic. Tony Nelson switching to A. Whisky and Wine Trails Tom is switching to A. Where's Roy? He's switching to A, or he's choosing A. 6 out of 6 for Mark Watt. Okay, he's confident on this one. Whatever Mark has answered, you might do well to follow him. I don't know if he's answered already, but I can tell you that in 2017, Nakhandu closed its doors. Just part of Diageo's rotation and what they do. No reason for it, it would seem. And then somehow in 2023, it just sparked back up again, and it's in production again, Nakhandu. But that's quite a big gap of production. It only matters to those of us who care about things from a single malt perspective. And out of all the Diageo distilleries, you have to say that Nakhandu is one of those ones that you rarely see anything from. I don't know how much of that's to do with the fact it was closed, but it's in very recent years, comparatively speaking. But it certainly looks like it's going to be the case going forward, right? Glencadam did close in 2000, I think it was, or 1989, 2000, I think. So we do see a gap in production for Glencadam, but it was a long time ago. Tobermory did close in 2017, but it was back up and running 2 years later after significant refurbishment. Question 7, in terms of a percentage volume ratio of overall whisky business, which of these companies relies on single malt whisky sales the most? So it's a percentage quoted of a ratio of their business. I'm going to give you 3 companies. You have to decide which of them rely on single malt sales the most. A, Diageo, B, William Grant's, or C, Pernod Ricard. Yes, Falscraft is pointing out, he's asking me to clarify. I do mean single malt, so this isn't bulk malt sales, or this is as a brand. Single malt sales is a brand under their umbrella. Greg's Whisky Guide is saying, very interesting question, this. Oh my God, here comes the question that is likely to get us all, says Sugar Kitty. I didn't follow Mark Watt, says Rick Johnson. I have regret, a 5 out of 6. Oops. Yeah. As a percentage of their reliance on sales, which of those is the biggest ratio towards single malt? Diageo, William Grant's, or Pernod Ricard? Greg is saying it has to be B, or what? Big Ed is saying B. I can tell you, this is quite amazing. Amazing. Mark Watt is going for B, and he's spot on. William Grant's. There's not much in it. I expected it to be bigger than this, but when you think about, I mean, Grant's is a big selling blend, blend globally, but obviously Willie Grant's have got Balvenie. Crinvey's tiny, it's negligible, but they've got Glenfiddich, one of the juggernauts of single malt sales. But compared to Pernod Ricard, who are only 14% of their sales goes toward single malt brands, 14% of Diageo brands is single malt, but 18% of William Grant's. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Given the scale of Glenfiddich. Okay, some attrition, but a few of you are still holding on. Gerben Blocker, where's Roy over here? Gorm J, that looks like the first time I've welcomed you in. Good to have you, and a 7 out of 7 as well. Well done. Mike Molasses, Big Ed, Gene Kelly, Tony Nelson, Cal Taylor, Brian Cabayas. Lots and lots of you on a 7 out of 7. Whiskey Wine Trails, Tom. Oh, I don't know if you are. It just jumped there, buddy. Mark Watt is on a 7 out of 7. The pressure is on. No, it's not. Keep it together. Question 8. Aberlour and the Glenlivet are the most popular single malt brands sold by Pernod Ricard Chivas Brothers. What percentage of overall single malt sales in the company do they account for? So Pernod Ricard are the second biggest after Diageo. Diageo have 30 malt distilleries in Scotland. Pernod Ricard have a dozen distilleries in Scotland. But they're the second biggest, a similar proportion of the market, well, 20, a quarter, 25%, I think, for Pernod Ricard. 35 to 40% for Diageo, but we're speaking specifically about Pernod Ricard's portfolio. The biggest brands that they have in single malt is Aberlour and the Glenlivet. What percentage of the overall single malt sales do those two distilleries represent? A, 20% of the overall single malt sales for Pernod Ricard. B, 75% of the overall sales for Pernod Ricard. Or C, 99% of the sales of Pernod Ricard is on the back of Aberlour and the Glenlivet. Mark Slinger is saying, Roy, as a Crinvey Stillman, I can tell you we are not tiny. 4.5 million litres from 9 stills. I don't doubt that for a second, Mark, that you are producing a significant amount of malt whiskey. But in terms of the context of what we're talking about tonight, in terms of single malt sales, Crinvey doesn't even register. It doesn't even flicker, right? It's next to nothing. Remember a few years ago, you had a couple of nice things out there. 42% ABV, I think they were. There was a 17-year-old and a 23-year-old. I seem to remember they were in 35 CL bottles, though, quite wee bottles. I'm going back about a decade now. I actually really, really loved the liquid. Loved it. We don't taste enough of that, Mark. And I hope that your life up there is enjoyable as you're literally producing whiskey, buddy. Last time I spoke to you, you were enjoying it. What other distilleries they have that are brands? That's absolutely spot on. They've got Scapa, which has just been reinvented. They've got Strathaila, which is the opposite. It's been uninvented. It's been undone. But you're absolutely right, Mark. It's a very, very good way to look at it. And it's why the canny folk will manage to navigate their way through this quiz. I can tell you that Aberlour and the Glenlivet, in terms of single malt sales, make up 99% of what Pernod Ricard sell. So all the Scapas, all the Strathailas, all the Ballantine single malt products from the likes of Milton Duff and Glentochers and whatever other brands you can find, it's next to nothing. Think of Glen Keith. That appeared for a little while, but no, nothing. It doesn't move the needle. Glenlivet and Aberlour. That, in terms of single malt, that's what Pernod Ricard are about. It's quite interesting, isn't it? And that's when you realize just how blend focused these big corporates are. That's the industry. That's the whiskey drinking planet. That's what they're focused on. Question 9, penultimate question, second from last. In 2025, the OSWAs are in their 5th year. 5 years this year, quite something, right? But how many category winners have there been since the inaugural OSWAs in 2021? Get your calculators out, get your thinking caps on. I did leak this earlier tonight, but you probably weren't listening. How many winners have there been since the inaugural OSWAs in 2021? 9 categories, does that help you? A, 34 winners, B, 35 winners, C, 36 winners. I'm not including trifectas. I'm not including People's Choice. I'm talking about category winners since the inaugural back in 2021. We need more Milton Duff and Glen Talker, says Mark. I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that. Justin Wan is raging. He stayed up so late and he's going, fark. I was so close. 7 out of 8, says Justin. So sorry, buddy. So sorry. Pierre is saying, waiting to be able to follow the crowd. Pom, pom, pom. It's nice of you to admit that. Even the channel elders. Those of us who don't have maths like me as a strong point would have to follow the crowd here too, Frank. Sugar Kitty Jeff is saying, oh my God, love, love, love Glen Talkers. Butter cookies are life. It's the fruit. Glen Talkers is one of the most effervescent fruity distillates for me. Bright, bright, sweet, fizzy orchard fruits. This Ardnahoe is an absolute belter. Okay. Most of you are suggesting... So we've had 4 years completed, 2021, 2022, 23, 24. So that's 9 categories times 4 years. It should be 36. But some of you might remember, as I mentioned earlier tonight, that the OSWAs original categories, blends and blended malt, were mixed together. So the number is actually 1 short of the maths, which is 35. First Fill Whisky Superstar. When we talk about polished content, when we talk, just a good guy. He's in here tonight, and not only that, he's bought me a dram, another brilliant vPub Roy I caught 2 times speed after missing the first hour, always worth it. Thanks for being such a cornerstone of the whisky community. First Fill Whisky, thank you for bringing what you bring, the unique, beautiful content that you bring. Phil, I think if I had discovered First Fill Whisky when I first started out in whisky, I would have been in a much healthier place with whisky and a lot quicker. It's amazing that such a thing can exist. Thanks for your generosity, your support, and your friendship, Phil. Cheers to you, buddy. Okay, we move into the ass hat. Of course we do. Strap in, everyone. I'm looking to see Mark. Oh, we've tripped up Mark. He's on an 8 out of 9. I'm looking to see if there's any 9 out of 9s tonight. Will the ass hat mean anything for anyone? Kyle Taylor is still hanging in there. My goodness, he's managed to navigate the white water of the quiz at the end. Somehow he's still upright and paddling. Let's get you through the ass hat, Kyle. Come on, we're rooting for you. Anybody else looking to get past the ass hat at the end? How many operational Scotch malt distilleries feature Aber, A-B-E-R, in their name? I love these questions. I'm loving these right now. It's about the same number as A, those distilleries featuring Spey in their name. B, those distilleries featuring Ben in their name. Or C, those distilleries featuring Clyde in their name. How many Scotch malt distilleries feature Aber in their name? Sugar Kitty's rooting for Kyle Taylor. We're all rooting for Kyle. We're all rooting for him, right? The ass hat at the end is designed to be horrible. Wasn't it a previous vPub question, but I don't remember the numbers anyway. Greg, nope. We've never had the Aber thing. These 3 options, A, B, and C, were the exact same 3 options as last week. But we didn't have Aber. I think it was Mill or something last week. Everyone's going for C. Kyle Taylor's guessing C. Peter is saying C. It must be C. It must be C. It must be C. It must be C. Well, let's have a look. I've got the numbers here. I can tell you that those featuring Spey is 3. Those featuring Ben is 6. Those featuring Clyde is 2. So, Kyle Taylor, come on. Come on. Put your thinking cap on. Get to that 6. 10, sorry. Get to that 10, right? I'm trying to read and speak at the same time. It's never clever. Come on, Kyle. Fastcraft is changing to A. Graham Young, A it is. Andy Hills is saying A. Steve Atkins is saying A. Kyle Taylor is saying hell yes. Gorm J is saying change to A. Where's Roy is saying A. Come on, Kyle, take the help. Darn slipped. I'm not revealing this until we see where Kyle Taylor is going. Come on, big guy. Come on. Come on. George Petras changed to A. Brian Cabayas A. Ian Bruce A. Whisky Welchers Tom. Well then A. Oh no, if it's too late, I'm changing to A, says Greg. Move to A, says Gene Kelly. I thought it was C, says James Morgan. Is Daisy in tonight? I can see one glass man talking to Daisy. I haven't caught Daisy here tonight. I hope she's in. Come on. Didn't know there were 3 Abers. Kyle, does that mean you're going with A? Thought there were 2, says Kyle Taylor. Oh. Cowards, says Rick Johnson. I'm sticking with C. I love it, Rick. I love it. Fastcraft is saying, just poured and aired an Ardaho barfly and starting it now. Don't let me lose this one. Pierre is saying, Daisy's not in. She's on a trip in Scotland. Fantastic. Good stuff. Okay, I can reveal to everyone, including Kyle, that there is Aberfeldy, Aberlour, and Aberargie. There is 3 Aber distilleries. There are 3 Aber distilleries. It's the same as Spey, Speyburn, Speyside, Glen Spey. It's the same. Kyle, I don't know if you managed to get your answer in there, buddy. But we might have another week, 2 in a row, where potentially nobody managed to get to 10 on the quiz at the end. I feel terrible, but it should be a challenge. Not so bad, says Gregor's Guide. Mark Watt celebrating a 9 out of 10 tonight. Fantastic. Sure, Kitty also on a 9. Good stuff. Good switch, 7 out of 10. Robert Rutherford on a 6. We were all rooting for Kyle tonight as well. We're all just kind of there for him. Come on. Did he slip up? Did he slip up at the end? Did he stick with 2? Kyle Taylor, 9 out of 10. Well done, big guy. Well done for sticking to your guns. I love it. I just love it. You navigated there, you capsized right in the pool at the very, very end. And it's a deep pool. It was a horrible pool, and it's my doing as well. I hope you don't hate me too much. I really don't. It was fun for a wee while, just rooting for you to get there. It really was. Danny Heventon is saying 7 out of 10. I'd like to dedicate this score to the National Rail Network for Graham Fraser because he couldn't get his signal. We couldn't follow Graham tonight as well. So he wasn't available to help us out. It'd be nice if Mark Watt and Graham Fraser both in at the same time. That would have been a nice guide. Mark Watt is saying, yet another great quiz. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you for participating in it at the end. And Andy Hills is saying, off to catch the first hour on replay. Thanks for another fun vPub. Thank you for joining tonight, Andy. I really do appreciate it. All the best to you. Love to Helen as well. Steve Atkins, 9 out of 10 is the new 10. Steve, I like the way you think. I think that's absolutely true. Again, it's designed in the hope that somebody's going to get the 10. I'm in no way going to change to an early C to a late A to chase the 10 out of 10 I didn't earn. Forgot about the Aberarchy. Oh, Kyle, thank you for being honest. Thank you for your pragmatism, and thank you for being calm about it as well, Kyle, you superstar. Well done on nearly getting there tonight. Peter is saying, and with that horrible score, though above pass mark, I call it a day and going to hit the sack. Thanks again for organising Aquavita, and all you do. See you next time, Slanchiva. Thank you, big guy. Mel is saying thanks, Aquavita, for a wonderful vPub tonight. Lachlan is saying thanks, Roy, and good night, folks. Super chat cancelled, says Whisky and Wine Trails Toms. I'm changing the locks. He's in a huff. Michael C is on a 6 out of 10. I'll go order that Malt yearbook right now, but it's a pass mark, Michael. You still did very, very well. Herben is saying a very happy score and see you again in Glasgow. I'm looking forward to it, Herben. Timothy H is saying always a nice way to start Friday day off. Cheers, Aquavite. Have a wonderful day on Friday down where you are, Timothy, and a great weekend. Rick Johnson is saying the cruelty of Menno is just now a distant memory. Oops. Gene Kelly saying again, another fantastic Thursday evening, so grateful. Mike Molasses saying good night, and everyone, I will try to get over the mid-quiz asshat lol. Sorry, Mike. Sorry, buddy. Graham Young is saying, cheers, Aquavita. Great fun. Quizzes are always a bit tough. What the good thing is was really cheers and thanks. Jason Whiskey Wise, thank you, Roy. Great catching up with you and everyone else tonight. Hope to see you all soon. Thank you, Jason. Gene Kelly, thank you very much for the sentiment. I'm glad that you enjoyed this Thursday night. I did enjoy this Thursday night. And every now and again, maybe it'll take a couple of years before the next time I raise a glass to this fantastic community that I am blessed with. Danny Hebbington has bought me a dram. It's great here, and it says, Danny, I love it, buddy, and I'm very, very grateful that you do too. Looking forward to my trip away this weekend. Heading over to Oslo very early in the morning. At some point in the new year, hopefully I'll be able to tell you what that was all about if everything works out well. I'll be back here a week from now on Thursday night for another vPub, and then just a couple of days after that on this Saturday, Ralfy and I will be getting together to reveal to you the 2025 nominations for the Line Scotch Whisky Awards. Look out for that. Justin Wan has bought me also a dram to say, final dram for you. Make that one of those Aquavite bottles. They are fantastic without exception. Justin, thank you very, very much for your support. And Jimmy Legg has gifted 10 Aquavite gift memberships out to 10 random lucky barflies out there, thanks to Jimmy's generosity. I'm going to raise the last of my wee Ardnaho that's in the glass tonight. I'm going to say that everything I said tonight I meant. I could have, if you felt it was a bit thick, a bit mushy, I actually held back. I could have said more because I feel more. I'm going to raise this glass and look forward to welcoming you back here next Thursday for a completely different topic, and remind you all genuinely that you are very dearly appreciated. You're very dearly loved. Until then, I wish you the very best. Slanchiva.